GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, very good morning to you. Britain on a knife edge today. 6,000 police on standby as the country braces for up to 30 far-right protests today.
Well, following last night's emergency Cobra meeting in Downing Street, Britain's top prosecutors now warning rioters could be charged with terror offences.
You are likely to be dealt with within a week, and that nobody, but nobody, should be involving themselves in this disorder.
Kamala Harris and Tim Walz dancing his way to the Democratic ticket ahead of November's election as the former teacher and Minnesota governor hopes to waltz his way to the White House.
Welcome the next Vice President of the United States, Tim Walz.
Anti-Semitism on the rise. That's as pro-Palestine protesters have targeted a performance of the Jewish musical Fiddler on the Roof.
And it seems some of you are well and truly enjoying decent weather more than others, with cases of skiving off work reaching a record high. The worst offending location? Reading.
And in the Olympics, good news last night is that Josh Kerr managed to beat his fierce rival Jacobin Gebrigtsen with a new British record in the Olympic 1,500-metre final. The bad news is, though, is that American Cole Hocker beat the both of them. 16-year-old skateboarder Sky Brown dislocated a shoulder, went on to win a bronze medal yesterday, and Adam Peaty says that the food in the Olympic Village has worms.
It's a sunshine and showers day, but the emphasis definitely on the sunshine across the south and the east. The emphasis definitely on the showers for the north and west. Join me later for a full forecast.
Coming up to 2 minutes past 6, a very good morning to you on this Wednesday morning. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster, and this is GB News Breakfast.
So here we are at breakfast time, and hopefully you're having something nice and pleasant and digestible, and it slips down easily, unlike what's going down in the Olympic Village, Mr. Paul. So the food at the Olympic Village as an added extra.
Apparently not very good. Well, Adam Peaty said there's worms, but the thing is that when your girlfriend's dad happens to be Gordon Ramsay, obviously you probably your level of food that you enjoy may go up a little bit. I've never had problems with worms in my food before. Apparently in the fish.
How do you... Oh, well, he could see them. I was going to say you can't normally identify if there's worms in your food until later on.
Oh, I know what you're saying. Well, apparently they were still given all...
Oh, no.
So I wonder where those fish from the Seine.
You know what? That's a very good... Can worms get E. coli? Could they be E. coli worms, or the fish get E. coli as well? Well, apparently he said
I wouldn't want it.
I wouldn't want it either.
Extra protein.
But they're going to the Team GB have got their own restaurant, so they could apparently serve 250 covers at one time. So Keely Hodgkinson, she's not eating in the Olympic Village because she didn't like the look of it either. Although Simone Biles said the pizza was really nice.
Yeah, but you wonder why you would eat pizza. I can totally understand somebody, you know, fish being on the menu and people saying we'll have a bit of fish today.
Yeah.
But pizza?
Well, the thing with athletes is that after they've done their event, and footballers do this as well, they have to then get the carbs.
Oh, yes,
I don't understand.
There's the golden hour, isn't there? After you've expended, where you can eat anything, an hour after
That's
you've had a
it.
really big
So
workout.
that's when they go for the stuff. But apparently, worms is not one of those
I'm
things.
not, you know, in France you get snails, all sorts of things, frogs' legs. I draw the line at worms.
OK, yeah, high carb worms.
Well,
I have that, by the way.
Yeah, OK. So we've got Kamala Harris has announced her running mate for the elections. And what do we know about this guy?
Oh, well, we've got lots of info on him. I mean, he's kind of an unknown. He's a Minnesota governor, and he has been chosen, I think, because...
Of his name?
Yes, waltzing his way into proceedings.
Bob Foxtrot, by the way, was so close to getting the call.
Well, it's clearly, you know, a really considered decision because there was lots of talk about the what was the state called? There was another contender for the job, and it was more of a swing state. And if they'd have gone for him because of the Electoral College, it would have been more beneficial to her potentially winning. But she's gone for somebody that she's aligned with, Shapiro, Pennsylvania. Shapiro, thanks, team. But in fact, she's gone for somebody that she could work with and liked better. It's sort of an ideological appointment. So anyway, it's been endorsed by Obama and others. And, I think it's interesting, all to play for. He's very...
Old.
Yeah, he's over 60, I think, but
Well, he looks worse.
Do you think?
He's had a rough paper round, I would say. He has, but you know what?
But they only throw them like that, though, in America, don't they? They don't actually put them through the door.
That's right. They never. Well, that is a very, very good point.
Yeah, you see it.
So what do I want to walk down to the bottom of my pathway in the morning to pick up my newspaper instead of it coming through my letterbox?
Because they don't have letterboxes either, do they, in America?
they're
They're so
postal
behind.
boxes.
They have those, like, boxes, and you have to walk down out the door to pick it up. I don't understand.
OK. Thank you very much, Paul. Paul will be back with us in about 15 minutes' time. We just want to reflect on the week of riots and protests getting much worse around the country, getting regular, people taking it for granted. No signs of things cooling down as police are mobilised ahead of today's going to be a big day. Anti-immigration protests, 30 of them throughout the country.
Well, more than 400 people have already been arrested following the unrest in nearly 24 cities. And speaking after an emergency Cobra meeting yesterday evening, the Prime Minister pledged that rioters will feel the full force of the law.
I made it very clear on a number of occasions that those involved will feel the full force of the law. So we coordinated, we went through some of the numbers. Over 400 people now have been arrested, 100 have been charged, some in relation to online activity, and a number of them are already in court. And I'm now expecting substantive sentencing before the end of this week.
We were speaking exclusively on GBNews last night. The former Home Secretary, Priti Patel, and potential future Tory leader, of course, with her, called for more accountability from the government.
This is why we have to have the questions, the scrutiny to the Home Secretary and to Keir Starmer, because actually the police need to have the tools, the equipment, the backing to police in the right way across all protests. Doesn't matter who, but literally all the protests where we're seeing thuggery, violence, criminality, everyone that's involved in that. These protests should be policed. I've seen footage on television, I'm sure you have as well. I saw some on social media last night from one part of the country where I saw no police. I want to know why that was. Why was there no police presence?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because they only prosecute law-abiding people. That's exactly. So if you park on a double yellow line or a red line or something like that, believe me, you will be hit with a fine. If you don't pay that fine, you'll be locked up in jail, probably. But you can throw a petrol bomb at a police Land Rover, for instance, and what will happen to you? Nothing. Nothing will happen. That just never ceases to amaze me, that you can go beyond the realms, that you can be really active, smash windows, use fire bombs, whatever, and nothing will happen.
Although the police have made 400 arrests, and the first one using these terror offences is underway, which is an interesting development. We can talk about that a bit more.
They're not going to put 400 people in jail.
Possibly, who knows?
No, definitely.
Well, they're saying, they're saying they've made space for 500 prisoners that are ready from next week. Let's speak to the politics lecturer at the University of Liverpool, Dr. David Jeffrey. Good morning to you. Look, it's a febrile situation at the moment and lots of criticisms of the way it's being policed. But let's talk first of all about, I suppose, where we are today. I think the good news that we need to reflect is that last night was relatively calm.
Yes, I mean, to some, this might feel like the calm before the storm. There's been lots of threats that today's going to be a big day of protesting or rioting, and that's something that should worry everybody. I think some of the signs that we've seen now from the system, so from the government, from the state, from the police, are quite promising, right? So if we think of the government like an oil tanker, it takes a long time to get into position, but once it does, it can make some good progress. And we've seen that with the arrests you just mentioned, and the very fast processing of kind of within court, which, you know, people might be asking, well, why is it we can suddenly do this now, but in normal times the courts are all backed up and things like that. But I think Starmer will probably be in a stronger position by the end of the week than he was at the start, because things are starting to move in his favour.
400 arrests. I mean, I will go back to this. They will not be putting 400 people in jail. They haven't got the space for it, and you have to leave room for other more heinous crimes and people to be put away for those or whatever. So basically, what can they do? Fine people?
Well, there's two ways they could go, I suppose. One is, yes, they could fine people some very short sentences or suspended sentences, but also quite troublingly, what we've been seeing is that, you know, Starmer and the new Labour government have said they're willing to release a lot of prisoners to free up capacity in the system, and people will raise eyebrows if people who have committed much more serious crimes, like, say, manslaughter, are let out a lot earlier than they would have otherwise been in order to make an example of a few rioters to go in for just a couple of months. I'm myself quite in favour of prison. I think prison works, but I don't think sending people in just for 1 or 2 months is worth removing people who are in for much more serious crimes. And obviously,
that
this
sends
is
out
only
a message, David. I suppose what it does is it says, look, if you're going to mess about, you're going to be punished for it. And then that message gets home clear and sharp. I mean, I understand that there would be people in for theft or something, and they'll be allowed out much earlier, just simply to free up those spaces.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the issue of going from opposition to government. When you're in government, your decisions matter. If you can shout from the sidelines in opposition, there's no real consequence. But now Starmer's got to make these very tough decisions. Ultimately, 14 years of Conservative government means that there are not enough prison spaces. The party didn't build enough, and now Starmer has to deal with the consequences. And there are no easy answers. As you say, prison works as a deterrent. It will put off rioters if they see that their friends are going into prison very quickly, it must be said. But on the other hand, the public are not going to accept if a few months down the line we see a spate of crimes committed by people who were let out early.
For the Metro newspaper, the first conviction so far, Joshua Simpson, 25, who was convicted of assaulting a police officer. He hasn't been sentenced yet, but lots of warnings that there could be 10-year sentences. And indeed, if they do end up facing terror charges, which has been the warning from the Director of Public Prosecutions, and he's been quoted in the Telegraph today saying he's aware of at least one instance where it is already happening that terror charges are being used. Of course, the sentencing for that, incredibly serious.
Well, one of the issues that we seem to have as a country is that people don't get punished when they commit crimes, and I think it's completely fair that somebody who commits an offence that could be classed as terrorism should be sentenced along those. There's no.
It's worth defining what a crime that is under the Terror Offences Act is, because that is something that is motivated by an ideology that can be defined, you know, in a sort of, well, it's motivated by ideology. That's the source of the crime.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we are a democracy, and people shouldn't be trying to affect political change through violence or through criminality. Obviously, we've seen some shocking scenes of hotels being set on fire with people in them. That is obviously wrong. I'm not an expert in the law, but I don't know whether that counts as terrorism or not. But these are serious offences, and people should be sent down for a long time if they're, you know, putting human lives in danger.
Well, you've got a situation in Northern Ireland, David, whereby we have loyalist paramilitary groups behind a lot of what is happening. It is organised, and they are terror groups. They are outlawed groups.
Yes, and it's scary, isn't it? Nobody wants to return to the Troubles. Nobody wants, you know, the the intense pressure that the police had to face in Northern Ireland repeating again. And I think really there should be a wake-up call for the political class that people aren't happy. These type of riots, these types of protests don't spring out of nowhere. That's not to say that people are justified in committing acts of violence, in breaking the law, because obviously we're meant to be a nation based on laws. But politicians, once this has passed, we'll have to look at the root causes of this and look at why so many people are so willing to go and commit so many criminal acts in
and with so many gatherings today, is today a day that worries you?
I think it does completely. I think obviously Starmer's had to do something. The 6,000 police officers as a kind of standing army is useful, but there are questions of logistics and will they be in the right place at the right time? You know, these take a long time to set up. If we do have the 30 riots that have been muted across social media and across the news, that is very worrying. And, you know, someone who's from Liverpool that has seen the riots happen in this city, you know, I don't want to see my city burnt. I don't want to see my city destroyed. And I just hope that everybody who's considering going to one of these protests, even if they intend to be completely peaceful, stay at home, because the more people there, the more oxygen it provides to the people who do want to cause trouble, and makes them think that they're on the right side here.
Dr. David Jeffrey, fascinating hearing from you. Thank you. Dr. Jeffrey is a politics lecturer at the University of Liverpool. Really do appreciate that. Liverpool, one of these cities involved by all that is going on. I mean, if there are riots, to me, riots should be, the response should be rubber bullets, the response should be CS gas. There should be a serious, that when they meet the line of police officers shouldn't be standing there waiting to take all the flak with shields and whatever, just inviting these yobos like this guy in the front of the Sun today to throw bricks and do all that. Should the police, we want your view on this one, should the police be fighting back? Should they be firing rubber bullets, for instance?
Now, we touched on it a minute ago, and we are turning our attention to the United States now, because after days of speculation, Kamala Harris has finally picked her running mate, and she's chosen the Minnesota governor, the lesser-known Tim Walz.
But everybody will know him now.
Yeah,
with that name,
very famous,
yeah. Overnight, the two campaigned for the first time. This was in Philadelphia, where she hailed Tim Walz as the vice president America deserves. She went on to tell the crowd of over 10,000 supporters that not only was their campaign against Donald Trump, but also a fight for the future.
Well, joining us now from Washington, D.C. with more on this is the US political analyst, Eric Ham. Good morning to you, Eric. And I understand Democrats are very pleased with her choice.
They are. This is a pick that will do no harm, and that's typically the first question that you have to answer when actually making a pick like this. This is a candidate who many believe will fortify those blue wall states of Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. In addition to that, the campaign thinks that he will certainly be a step up from Donald Trump's running mate of J.D. Vance. So Democrats are excited about this. We're learning that already they've raised more than $20 million since the Harris campaign announced Tim Walz as her running mate. And now, in addition to the enormous amounts of money that they're raising, they expect to get another bounce in the polls with this pick.
Just explain to us why he has been so popular with Democrats, because I know he's criticised Vance and Trump as being weird, and that has gained some traction. And he sort of shoots from the hip, I suppose, but in a sort of moderate, I don't know how to describe it, but he seems to resonate with a certain group of people.
Yeah, there are those who says he has what's called big dad energy. In addition to that, he is someone who served 12 years in Congress. He is a decorated military officer. In addition to that, he has a record of accomplishments in the state of Minnesota that we're told Kamala Harris would like to see replicated nationally. So he passed a bill on universal background checks for guns. He was able to codify women's reproductive rights into the Constitution. The state also provides free tuition to low-income Minnesotans. And so these are just some of the things that Kamala Harris was enamored with. And also, too, he's seen as a happy warrior, someone who can speak in a relatable, sensible way to many voters across the country. And also, he's a balance on the ticket. You have Kamala Harris from San Francisco, who many try to portray as a liberal progressive. And then, of course, you have Tim Walz, who comes from the Midwest. And so you've got the regional balance between the two people. And many believe that's a boon.
Nobody votes for vice president.
Well, the first thing that I said was this is a candidate is to do no harm. I mean, and so that's what he does in this case. But also one of the key components of actually picking a vice president is many people are able to ascertain the judgment of the top of the ticket with this pick. And so clearly what they're seeing here is while many Americans are only now getting to know who Tim Walz is, many people don't know his record. And so this is an introduction that we're seeing into him. And Kamala Harris was looking for someone who she thinks can be an ample governing partner.
Just really quickly, she didn't choose Shapiro, which I think was probably the favourite choice, and he's from Pennsylvania, which is a swing state, and there was lots of suggestions she might pick him because it would just, nail that on and help her with the Electoral College vote. Interesting that she didn't decide that as a tactic, and that shows perhaps a level of confidence.
Well, it does, but also we're hearing that Josh Shapiro had very high unfavorables and some internal polling that was done. Also, we're told that the Harris campaign was not actually, they felt that he did not click. They felt that he was extremely ambitious and perhaps would not actually go along with a Harris agenda and was more focused on himself. And so that's perhaps why he did not get the nod, even though he comes from a state that's going to be crucial in this election.
Eric, great hearing from you. Thank you very much indeed for putting us in the picture over here. Appreciate it. Thank you. Other stories coming into the newsroom this morning.
An inquest into the deaths of the 3 little girls who lost their lives in Southport last Monday will be opened after a 17-year-old was charged with their murders. B.B. King, Elsie Dott and Alice De Silva Aguirre were at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class when the attack happened.
Water companies facing a combined record fine of £168 million after a series of failings, including sewage spills. Thames Water, Northumbrian and Yorkshire were issued the penalty by the regulator Ofwat. Thames is facing the biggest fine of £104 million.
And some good news for cat lovers. A study's found cats do, in fact, have feelings. Come on, as if we didn't know that. And many even grieve the loss of fellow pets. Of the 400 cats that were part of the study, the vast majority showed signs of mourning, including going off their food, sleeping more, and playing less. Bless them.
So in the Daily Telegraph today, they're actually talking about how difficult and asking why is it so difficult to adopt a cat?
Yeah, well, I suppose it's got to be difficult to adopt any animal, hasn't it? It's got harder. I mean, when we, even just buying a pet, when I was a child, we got our cat from the pet shop. We just walked in and there was a litter of kittens in there and you picked up and walked out. But they do all sorts of checks on homes and how long you're at home as well before they allow you to adopt. I think it's the same with dogs, isn't it?
I wouldn't say it's like this article. The UK has a glut of rescue animals, so why do charities make it so difficult to rehome them? That's the question. And, give a dog, give a cat a home, that's the thing. Does a cat want a home?
Yes, absolutely.
I thought they'd just go off and squander and murder all around.
Just go to show you've never had a cat. My cat is the absolute heart of the family. He comes up, greets us every time the car pulls in, the tail goes up, he comes and finds us. Rolls over on his back, wants a tummy tickle. He's a very lovely boy. Anyway, I can talk about it all day.
OK. Now, what's this about? What are we talking?
What's your favourite subject? Well, it's like they've picked my favourite subject, which is cats, and now they've picked yours, which is shirking.
Is this the Reading story? What's this? Yes, it is the Reading story. Basically what we're saying is a lot of people are enjoying the weather, enjoying the holiday, and as is my absolute conviction, this country is just full of skivers. The new generation doesn't want to work and they stay at home. More so if you're in Reading. Let's have a look.
Reading, home to some of the UK's top tech and finance companies. And according to a new study, the country's top skivers too.
So we're like lazy. Kind of.
Yeah, I can get behind that. Well, that sounds about right, actually.
Analysis by tech firm QR Code Generator found that remote workers here are most likely to be skiving off this summer, with Google searches for ways to fool virtual productivity monitoring 69% higher than the UK average. Making up the rest of the top 5 are Preston, Wakefield, Cheltenham and Hove.
Could probably look into doing that myself. Sounds like something I'd try.
I didn't even know it existed. No, that's incredibly creative.
It tends to be cases where management tends to look on them constantly, so they feel like they have to do something.
But I do think that if you're being paid to do a job, then you should be actively doing it, especially if you have the option to work remotely.
James Bohr is a security and technology consultant.
So you can find all sorts of things. People have jury-rigged their own using things like the famous drinking bird, just to hit a key now and then. I've seen people use vibration pads and just put a mouse on it so it jiggles around constantly. Or you can, if you really want to, buy deliberately designed ones. Those are the mechanical devices. Now, there is also software that promises to do this, but a large amount of that software is problematic itself because you don't know who's written it. You don't know if it's going to do something malicious or log your keystrokes so it gets your password. So the software I'd be very careful with.
Helen Wright runs 9-to-3 jobs and her entire team works from home. She believes firms need to leave employees to get on with it.
I think the pandemic has opened the door to hybrid working. I think candidates out there are now expecting to be able to do it. And for many, many years, for decades, employers have been able to watch their staff in the office. So I think there's a head shift, a mind shift that really needs to happen when it comes to monitoring output. And I think it's really sad if members of staff feel the need to demonstrate that they're working when perhaps they're not.
Now, as I filmed this report, another survey emerged which revealed that 20% of UK home workers admitted using their company laptop to view adult material. Another 39% confessed that they had taken work phone calls while sitting on the loo.
I wouldn't do that.
Well, if you need to go, you need to go, innit? If you've got a meeting. Yeah, I would do that.
Really?
Absolutely. How many of us use our phones, use our laptop on the toilet anyways? I don't see that as much different.
I don't think it's all that bad. You're at home, but things still need to be done. It's definitely one of the nice things that allow people to work from home.
As the line between work and personal life continues to blur, companies may have to decide how much they trust their employees. And if they feel working from home is no longer productive or safe, we could all end up back in the office. Ray Addison, GB News, Reading.
Can't believe what I just heard. What? Taking a work call on the toilet.
You know, people that do anything on the toilet except what they're supposed to do, the idea people bring reading material into the toilet.
I find that weird. Why are there books in the loo? Get in, get out.
Get in, get out. Totally agree with you, Isabel. Goodness me.
What's wrong with people?
Why do they savour it? Why?
I remember at the BBC when I was starting out, there was a chap who would go and pick up a newspaper, stick it under his arm and then go into the staff toilets. He was in there 15 minutes. And we all just, it just made me feel unwell. Anyway, sorry, it's 6:26. I'm sure that's livening your morning this morning. Here's the forecast, Alex Deakin.
Is he on the toilet?
Hope not.
OK.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. It's a day of sunshine and showers. Some places won't see too many showers. Others, particularly Western Scotland, we'll see lots of them. That's where the low pressure is. You can see the swirl here. Very wet day, basically, across the Highlands. The closer you are to the low, the more showers you'll see. So they'll be on and off through the day for Northern Ireland, northwest England. Further south, the showers a bit more scattered, so longer, drier spells, particularly this afternoon over the Midlands and Wales. Some decent spells of sunshine here. Not many showers at all across southern and eastern England. Generally a dry day and a fresher feel as well. Could still get to 22, 23. Further north, temperatures mostly in the high teens and feeling cool with a pretty brisk wind. That will chug the showers along quite a bit here across parts of the northwest, whereas further south, well, we might see a shower zipping through, but generally It's a fine day and a fine evening as well. A few more showers across northern England, but even here I suspect by this evening the showers fading, as they should across Northern Ireland. We'll keep the showers going across western Scotland, but again to the east, still some fine weather to be had through the evening time. Plenty of sunshine likely here. Staying fairly blustery and showery across the Northern Isles through this evening. Elsewhere, many places becoming dry with lengthy clear spells, but notice the cloud gathering down to the southwest. It's going to mix things up a little bit for Thursday. The cloud increasing for Wales and southwest England. Things turning a bit damp here by Thursday morning. Quite a warm night as well as that cloud moves in. Temperatures holding up at 14 or 15, 12 to 13 elsewhere. So for tomorrow, perhaps a bright sunny start across eastern Scotland, much of central and eastern England, but a different day for Wales, southwest England. Grey, rain and drizzle on and off, particularly over hills and around coasts. Some of that rain at times coming into Northern Ireland and eventually southern Scotland, but generally a drier day over the Highlands. Again, parts of eastern England staying fine all day, and here the top temperatures of 24 degrees. Bye for now.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Whether the weather's hot or not, our competition certainly is.
Yeah, £30,000 you could have in your bank account this year, and it could all be yours as part of the latest Great British Giveaway. These are the details.
Don't miss out on your chance to win a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. It's extra cash that could really make a difference to your coming year. You could find yourself on that holiday you've always wanted to take, buy that treat that always seemed out of reach, or just send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. £30,000 could be yours. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Sport up next. Paul Coit with that. Look back at the Olympics and look ahead at everything else that's happening after this.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates.
You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes,
She could have said storm.
You made my argument for me.
My guest and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different. Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Right, it was a good night of athletics last night in the Olympics. It really was. Let's get the latest from Paul Coit, who joins us, because it was really set up as to be a dramatic race. I think it was more dramatic than anyone thought. The 1500,
1500 metres. I'm a shouter when it comes to watching it. It got very exciting.
Yeah.
And also, I want to mention firstly, before we get to that, is the victory bell. Have you seen the victory bell?
Yeah.
And I think it's a great idea. There's the bell. Can we see the bell there? There we are. There's the victory bell.
Yeah.
So whenever anybody wins a race, they go over to the bell, ring the bell, and do you know what they're going to do with the bell afterwards?
No.
It's going to go to Notre Dame Cathedral. So the victory bell, once it's rung by everybody, it will then replace one of the smaller bells in Notre Dame, and that's where it will be forever.
Is it also used to signal the last lap?
You know what? I don't think they double up with that bell, because that would be another bell.
Right.
Because there's always the bell, so I think that's a separate bell to the victory bell. But apparently Gabby Logan was talking on TV saying that there was a conspiracy, and she was saying, oh, well, I saw that I could see the bell ringing and then the sound came at a different time. And she was almost alluding to the fact that they were playing the noise of the bell, a separate noise of the bell. But, Gabby, it's physics, because the thing is, you will see that, and if you're sitting far away, you won't hear the bell until after.
Speed of sound versus speed of light.
If you were on the moon, I can understand that. That's nonsense. There won't be a distance.
There is.
It will be instantaneous.
No, I
disagree. It will be instantaneous unless she was on a different continent.
No, I won't have it. At football, I've seen it. At Spurs, they have a man with a drum. You see that.
Because it's not
and then
real
you hear
either.
the drum afterwards. Because that's not real afterwards. You know what? I'm hearing your voice, and your mouth is moving at a different time. There's something funny going on here.
Right, but let's talk about this upstart
Let's talk about the race,
who ruined the 1500, because there was all the trash talk between Josh Kerr, who everyone thought was going to win, and his arch rival, and neither of them won.
Jakob Ingebrigtsen. And it's almost... it took away the rivalry between the two of them. They're probably both kicking themselves, because it actually took away from the rest of the race, because they just thought it was going to be between them. Now, Josh Kerr, who's the world champion, Ingebrigtsen, the Olympic champion. This is real rivalry, and I've been talking about it all week, and they really don't like each other. Now, the other thing that I mentioned, because there was a lot of talk about why did he go so early, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, and I did mention this earlier. Now, the reason that this happened, and this hasn't been mentioned a lot, is that Jakob Ingebrigtsen has a faster time, a faster personal best than Josh Kerr. So in his mind, he's thinking this 1500, I will run out fast, I'll take them on, and then I will break him, because I know that I've got a faster time.
He just broke himself.
But that's it. He went out in front, and you know what it's like, Eamonn, from your middle distance running, you don't want to run from the front, do you, for the whole time?
For the pack.
Exactly. And then Josh was on his shoulder, and we're getting down to the last 100 metres, and I'm, come on, Josh. He gets past Ingebrigtsen.
Thinks he's won it.
And then out of nowhere, Cole Hocker from the USA, and there's Cole there. I mean, for goodness sake, he's got a ponytail, this guy. How can you have someone with a ponytail winning this race? And he surprised them all, came along on the inside, new Olympic record, but Josh Kerr did break the British record for the 1500 metres. He got silver. Ingebrigtsen ended up fourth, by the way. So Josh Kerr's time of 3:27.79, and I was comparing it to the great runners that we had 1,500 metres back in the day of Steve Cram, Steve Ovett, Sebastian Coe. So whereas Josh Kerr did 3:27.79, Sebastian Coe, when he set the world record back in 1979, was 3:52.09. So if you think 5 seconds difference between them, it's almost like half a length. So great race.
I'm old enough to remember people on television during chat shows drinking alcohol and smoking.
Yeah, happy days.
Sometimes when I see people playing golf and smoking, I find that strange, though, in the sporting context.
It is very strange, isn't it? There are golfers. I mean, Sam Torrance, I think, was one that would have a cigar and he'd put there, and Charlie Hull, who is representing us in the Olympics. Now, I don't know, it's going to be tricky for her because she's a smoker and you wouldn't think that you'd have smokers in the Olympic arena. It's not a very Olympic thing to do. So she's going to be going out, but she's not allowed to smoke. So they've banned smoking, as far as what she believes, from the Olympic golf, which it is a bit bizarre that you would have someone smoking. And there was pictures of her when she was playing in a tournament, and she was signing an autograph for a kid, like fag-ass Lil. She's got the fag out the side of her mouth like that, signing this. So it's not really an Olympic ideal, is it? It's not really very Olympic. So she won't be. So I don't know whether it's going to affect. So what do? Do we say, look, if it gives you more chance?
No.
No. We'd rather lose the gold medal.
Yeah. She's just going to have to do it without a fag.
Hold on to this for a second.
We've got to stub you out there, Paul. Thank you very much indeed.
Ring the bell.
And we're going to light up Claire Muldoon and Scarlett Maguire when we go through what's making the news with them in just a moment.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In North Yorkshire, the A65 is closed in both directions at Settle after an accident. In the West Midlands, the A457 is closed in both directions between Oldbury and Smethwick after an accident not far to the west of Smethwick Galton Bridge railway station. In London, the A316 is closed into town along Lower Richmond Road between Richmond Circus and Chalkers Corner at Mortlake, where overnight roadworks have overrun. In Kent, there's an accident on the A28 by the White Hart Newenden. On the M26 in Kent, there are westbound delays building already on the approach to the M25 because of roadworks. And in West Sussex, there's a report of an accident on the A259 westbound near to Eldon Way in Littlehampton. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
It's a very difficult issue, this, right? As far as we know, the boxer with male chromosomes was born with female genitalia.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually quite simple. Sex in humans is binary and immutable because we are mammals. And there is a minority of people who have disorders of sexual development, and that can affect a person's reproductive organs. But these people are male or female. And yesterday, what we witnessed was basically just glorified male violence against women and girls. The difference is, I mean, that happens every day all over the world. And the difference is that in every other circumstance, we consider beating up women to be wrong, but it was deemed acceptable by those at the IOC because they're claiming that it's sport, but it's not. It's violence and it's wrong.
Peter, Lottie's right, isn't she, that we've been talking a lot recently about violence against women and girls, and regardless of whether this person is intersex or transgender, they have male chromosomes. That means they have a very, very distinct biological advantage that could actually be fatal to a female athlete competing against them.
Well, of course, sport does need to be fair, and we do need to examine this case very thoroughly. There are reports that the boxer, Eamonn Khalif, was born a biological woman. She is not transgender. She is not non-binary. She is not intersex. She may have elevated levels of testosterone, but that's entirely natural. It's beyond her control. It's the way she was born. And that is why the International Olympic Committee has said that she falls within the rules.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Let's have a look at the front pages of the papers on this Wednesday morning, beginning with The Times.
Yes, they're leading with thousands of police gearing up for what could be a full day of anti-immigration protests, with Starmer warning that all necessary action will be taken.
Daily Mail reports shame of the child rioters. We're going to be talking about that next, with Britain's most senior prosecutor warning it's deeply disturbing to see youngsters as young as 11 taking part.
The Guardian's leading with immigration lawyers fearing for their own safety as the far right have threatened to target their businesses.
The Express reports Reform leader Nigel Farage warning that Britain is at a perilous point.
And the Mirror leads with 10 years hard labour as the Home Secretary Yvette Cooper brands the rioters cowards.
Joining us now to discuss those stories and more, Claire Muldoon and Scarlett Maguire. Very good to see you both. Let's talk about the child rioters first of all, Claire. What's your take on this?
Absolutely disgusted. I'm absolutely disgusted that any child would be motivated or allowed to do anything like this. I know it's summer holidays, right? But this isn't any form of fun. This is absolutely disgusting on so many levels. But these kids, what hope do they have? What hope do they have when they're being brought up in an environment as hostile as their parents obviously thinking this is the route to take? I just can't believe it. I cannot believe anyone would be motivated to riot, let alone allowing your child to.
Do you think that if a child as young as 11 is attending a riot, the parents should also face some sort of
Yes, absolutely. Because there's their responsibility. The child is their responsibility. The child is a child in the eyes of the law and in society. They're not responsible for their own actions at that age. The parents, however, are. But what you'll find is either the parents are joining them or they're following on from that, or the parents are not there. They're absent.
I just wouldn't accept, Scarlett, that parents don't know what their 11-year-old is doing.
I know, I mean, I think, if anything, they're encouraging them. I mean, that's what's so frightening about this, is Claire's right. I mean, the fact that they're there is appalling. Yeah. But actually, the damage that it's doing, that you're having children brought up to hate.
Yes.
Because this is what these riots are about. I mean, you know, you can talk about underlining, but actually they're hate riots and they're people screaming at things. And what a parent is doing, and absolutely, they are totally responsible.
And disrespect for the police as well. I mean, I could not imagine. If I was 11, my attitude to police officers, yes, sir, no, sir.
And that was in Belfast.
Will, sir, and that was in Belfast.
My attitude at 41. Quite frankly.
But it stays with you. That's the point.
But, you know, with these 11-year-old children, and this is why I do think the parents should face some sort of repercussions, is because it can ruin their lives. And this is what the DPP has been saying. These children could get criminal records. Yeah. They would therefore struggle to get employment. They will therefore struggle to travel, depending on what they're, convicted for. And it is a life-changing decision to get involved in these riots, these criminal riots. And these kids are clearly not capable of making those decisions for themselves.
No, they're not.
No, but I mean, what I'd like to know is how often they're brought along. I mean, that it's not just they're allowed, or there are parents who don't know what they're up to, but actually there are parents who are saying, yes, you know, let's all go, and you're right about it changing, you know, that they can get a criminal record and everything. But also, I mean, what worries me is what happens when you're in the middle of a riot and how I mean, that whole hate thing.
It's the
you
adrenaline.
see the pictures of people throwing things at the police. You see the pictures of people screaming. I mean, you know, people of colour are actually terrified of going out on the street now. And you saw the pictures of this gang going down a street, smashing every car, smashing the windows. I mean, you know, this is what we're talking about. And we should not... I mean, of course there shouldn't be children...
Sarah Vine describes it as toxic masculinity at its very worst, and why an 11-year-old child should be anywhere near that is, as you say, it is dangerous. Oh, well, I suppose the good news, and I do want to kind of reflect this in the nature of balance, is that there weren't any major upsets and incidents last night.
Yes, there was.
That's a positive.
Yes, there was. There was in Belfast. They're not on the same scale,
Really?
but stop trying to pretend this is going away, because this ain't going away.
Okay.
And today's going to be a very, very dangerous day.
But can I say, Eamonn, you said that people aren't going to go to jail. Look, if they are jailing the Just Stop Oil people for 5 years...
And so they should.
If they're doing that, what are they going to be doing to people who are throwing bricks at the police?
Nothing. Nothing.
Absolutely.
They're going to do nothing. Okay. That's what they're going to do. Listen, I'm telling you, I watch all this stuff in Belfast for years. You can burn a police Land Rover, you can do whatever the heck you want. You know what happens to you? Stuff all. Stuff all. So
we will come back.
Starmer will talk tough on all this.
No,
he hasn't got the staff, he hasn't got the prison cells for this, he hasn't got anything.
Well, there are 500 prison cells that have been made available, right? That's what he said, and the courts are being open.
Where's he getting the staff? They haven't got staff to man Wandsworth Prison, right?
I know.
That report was in there. 500. So who are they letting out of those 500 cells?
There's lots of female convicts who have been sent down for things like fraud that are, non-violent female criminals, the first to be released to make way.
Well, they're going to put, because it's predominantly males that are rioting, are they going to put those males in female prisons?
Well, there'll be lots of moving around. Well, yeah, jiggery-pokery, but I think they're going to come down really hard on this.
I think they're going to come down. I mean, I remember 2011.
Yes, so do I.
And the sentences...
And that was very serious.
Do you know what? Listen.
In 2011.
Sorry, I've reported on it for longer than you have,
okay.
right?
Well, then you know
for 41 years. Yes, I do.
Okay,
right.
we'll come back.
So the whole point, you say we don't talk to terrorists. We do talk to terrorists. I will guarantee you that it was all talk tough, and they'll all be out after a week. They'll be stuck in a cell for a week.
Guarantee me they're all out after a week.
They'll be guaranteed.
Well, the first one's in jail until the 27th, so you're already wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not already wrong. It's not the 27th yet.
Yeah, exactly. There's more than a week. He's in custody until the 27th, the first convict. So
they've
there you
all
go.
been remanded in custody, except if you're under 18, right?
It's all showmanship.
If you're over 18, they've been remanded in custody, so they're already in jail.
Yeah, but how many? It's all show. First 20 or so. Look, Isabel, you can laugh all you want, love. But the whole track record on this does not stand up to any sort of examination.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Right, could we talk about people who should be in jail, the water companies?
The water companies. Lock them up.
What is amazing about the water company... Sorry, Claire, it's yours.
No, on you go.
Right.
but I'm quite enjoying this show. I'll be tweeting about it in a minute.
So they've been fined literally millions of pounds. Thames Water has been fined 104 million.
Again, can I say that's a big amount of money, but the other stuff is not big money. £3 million, £15 million, whatever it is. It's pence.
Actually, it is all quite a lot of money. But if we look at Thames, what's so terrible about it is they go, oh no, we don't have any money. I mean, we don't have any money.
Yeah.
If we pay this, we'll be completely broke. We already owe.
Well, they're cash rich until 2025. They're fine until 2025. The issue is here that it's not just the UK with terrible water issues. We've seen in the Olympics that they couldn't finish the men's triathlon because of the amount of sewage and stuff in the Seine. And that we have to say that as well, because everyone just thinks, oh, it's broken Britain, oh, it's Britain's problem, it's this, that and the next thing. Thames Water's not even owned by a British company. And the record fines, they won't touch them. It really won't touch them, because they will make debt recovery such that they will be able to overcome the debt. What they should have been doing was being kept on track of doing the plumbing, getting the pipes sorted and getting the sewage ready for when we've got bad weather, which in this country is guaranteed. It's ridiculous it's even come to this.
But it's been going on for years.
Yes.
And what's so terrible is that only this year they were giving bonuses to the head of Thames Water and the financial person, not because they're doing anything for us, but because they make a profit.
Yes.
And that's what it's all about. Is the water companies don't work for us, they work to make a profit.
Well, that's what private companies do, and that's capitalism.
The biggest freshwater lake in the whole of Europe is Lough Neagh in Northern Ireland. And it is green in colour. And if it was in the Lake District or whatever, it would be over all the newspapers, but it isn't. And the sewage companies, the water companies, they get away with a lack of investment. They're dealing with silage, dealing with all sorts of pollution that goes in there, and it's an environmental disaster.
And it's gone on for decades.
Yes.
I mean, the thing that it's not going to be cured now, right, is because they go, oh, no, but we don't have any money. And you think, but why haven't you been doing it for the last 30 years?
And also, why are you paying yourself so much money in terms of bonuses and to your shareholders and dividends and all the rest of it when you're clearly...
We're talking about CEOs who earn literally millions.
2.3 million, the boss of...
I don't understand the business model here.
No.
Because if I was running a shop or whatever, I would say, well, I've got to decorate the inside. That's got to come out of my profits. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. And then after that, if there's any money made over, that's for me. But this lot seem to be, we take the money out first of all, and we don't do anything to build up the infrastructure of the business and the safety of the business.
And yet the adverts would say that they are doing everything. You know, if you've got a leak, we can do that. If you've got water pressure issues, we will be on that. Well, they're simply not, and they need to really be taken to task.
The infrastructure, I mean, the whole system, the way it was sold off in the first place. Exactly. Yeah. That's the thing. Yeah. So I wouldn't want their business, personally, to be able to fix that and do that, how they're going to do that. But there's a responsibility that goes with the job.
Well, yeah. I mean, they bought them, right? And the Victorian piping was there. We've been talking about Victorian piping for decades, and they haven't done anything about it.
Maybe now companies are starting to listen to the common people, because it was due to some members of the public who've got together and who made these claims to the water companies, brought them to MPs, and this is now being targeted.
Surfers against sewage, actually. I mean, they've been going on and on and on. You're absolutely right. There's been a concerted campaign.
Well, we hope something will be done about it.
Well, they don't need to riot to make their point. Let's get that out there as well.
OK. For the moment, ladies, thank you very much indeed. We'll see you again in about 40 minutes or so. That would be great.
Now we're going to get a check on the weather forecast with Alex Deacon. It was a bit of a damp day yesterday. First bit of rain I've seen in a while after my summer holidays. Will it be more of the same today? Let's find out with your forecast.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. It's a day of sunshine and showers. Some places won't see too many showers. Others, particularly Western Scotland, we'll see lots of them. That's where the low pressure is. You can see the swirl here. Very wet day, basically, across the Highlands. The closer you are to the low, the more showers you'll see. So they'll be on and off through the day for Northern Ireland, northwest England. Further south, the showers a bit more scattered, so longer, drier spells, particularly this afternoon over the Midlands and Wales. Some decent spells of sunshine here. Not many showers at all across southern and eastern England. Generally a dry day and a fresher feel as well. Could still get to 22, 23. Further north, temperatures mostly in the high teens. And feeling cool with a pretty brisk wind. That will chug the showers along quite a bit here across parts of the northwest, whereas further south, well, we might see a shower zipping through, but generally it's a fine day and a fine evening as well. A few more showers across northern England, but even here I suspect by this evening the showers fading, as they should across Northern Ireland. We'll keep the showers going across western Scotland, but again to the east, still some fine weather to be had through the evening time. Plenty of sunshine likely here. Staying fairly blustery and showery across the Northern Isles through this evening. Elsewhere, many places becoming dry with lengthy clear spells, but notice the cloud gathering down to the southwest. It's going to mix things up a little bit for Thursday. The cloud increasing for Wales and southwest England. Things turning a bit damp here by Thursday morning. Quite a warm night as well as that cloud moves in. Temperatures holding up at 14 or 15, 12 to 13 elsewhere. So for tomorrow, perhaps a bright sunny start across eastern Scotland, much of central and eastern England, but a different day for Wales, southwest England. Grey, rain and drizzle on and off, particularly over hills and around coasts. Some of that rain at times coming into Northern Ireland and eventually southern Scotland, but generally a drier day over the Highlands. Again, parts of eastern England staying fine all day, and here the top temperatures of 24 degrees. Bye for now.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News. The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In North Yorkshire, the A65 remains closed in both directions west of Settle after an accident yesterday morning. The M69 in Leicestershire is closed southbound from the M1 near Leicester to Junction 1, the A5 Hinkley and Nuneaton turn, where overnight roadworks have overrun. In the West Midlands, the A457 is closed in both directions at Smethwick after an accident. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking around a quarter of an hour in westbound queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks. Also in Kent, there's an accident on the A28 near the White Hart at Newenden, and in West Sussex, the A259 is partly blocked westbound by an accident near to the junction with Eldon Way at Littlehampton, and it's slow towards and past there. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Don't miss out on your chance to win a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. It's extra cash that could really make a difference to your coming year. You could find yourself on that holiday you've always wanted to take, buy that treat that always seemed out of reach, or just send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. £30,000 could be yours. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled.
Lovely. Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Britain on a knife edge.
6,000 police officers on standby as we brace for up to 30 far-right protests today.
Well, following last night's emergency Cobra meeting in Downing Street, Britain's top prosecutor is now warning rioters could be charged with terror offences.
You are likely to be dealt with within a week, and that nobody, but nobody, should be involving themselves in this disorder.
Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, the official Democratic ticket ahead of November's election, as the former teacher and Minnesota governor hopes to waltz his way to the White House.
Welcome the next Vice President of the United States, Tim Walz.
Anti-Semitism on the rise. That's as pro-Palestine protesters target a performance of the Jewish musical Fiddler on the Roof.
The Algerian boxer Eamonn continues her quest for a gold amid a growing gender row in international boxing.
And it seems some are enjoying the nice weather more than others, with cases of skiving off work records high, the worst offending location being Reading.
And in the Olympics, good news last night. Well, Josh Kerr beat his fierce rival Jakob Ingebrigtsen with a new British record in the Olympic 1500-metre final. But there is bad news with that. That's because American Cole Hocker beat the both of them to the gold. Another silver medal for our sprint cyclists. And after a 14-year-old won the women's skateboarding yesterday, in the men's event, today we're represented by a 51-year-old man. I kid you not.
It's a sunshine and showers day, but the emphasis definitely on the sunshine across the south and the east. The emphasis definitely on the showers for the north and west. Join me later for a full forecast.
Approaching 2 minutes past 7 o'clock. A very good morning to you. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster, and you're tuned in to GB News Breakfast. Well, after a week of flashpoints and riots, more than 6,000 police officers are mobilised today ahead of planned anti-immigration protests throughout the country today.
Already more than 400 have been arrested following the unrest in nearly 24 cities. Speaking after an emergency Cobra meeting yesterday, the Prime Minister pledged rioters will feel the full force of the law. This is what he had to say.
I made it very clear on a number of occasions that those involved will feel the full force of the law. So we coordinated, we went through some of the numbers. Over 400 people now have been arrested, 100 have been charged, some in relation to online activity, and a number of them are already in court. And I'm now expecting substantive sentencing before the end of this week.
Well, speaking exclusively on GB News last night, the former Home Secretary, Priti Patel, and potential future Tory leader called for more accountability from the government.
This is why we have to have the questions, the scrutiny to the Home Secretary and to Keir Starmer, because actually the police need to have the tools, the equipment, the backing to police in the right way across all protests. Doesn't matter who, but literally all the protests where we're seeing thuggery, violence, criminality, everyone that's involved in that, these protests should be policed. I've seen footage on television, I'm sure you have as well. I saw some on social media last night from one part of the country where I saw no police. I want to know why that was. Why was there no police presence?
Well, the politics lecturer at the University of Liverpool, Dr. David Jeffrey, joins us now. Good morning again to you. Look, a quieter night last night compared to the previous several nights, and yet there is serious concern that today could be a significant flashpoint.
Yes, of course. So there's up to 30 riots that have been, or protests, depending on how you want to define them, that are allegedly being planned for tonight. Hopefully, as we saw on the weather report, the rain across large parts of the country might put people off. That could be something that helps the police today. But it is certainly a worrying time for pretty much anyone who lives in a large city or town.
And what do you make of this suggestion that terror offences are starting to be used? And obviously, how does that change things in terms of passing through the courts? I know you're not a legal expert, but this has been discussed by the advisor to the government who was concerned about introducing them, saying it could escalate matters.
Yes, I think ultimately, if people commit offences that can be classed as terrorist offences, then they should be charged by that. What we don't want to see in this country is people being let off leniently, certain groups being let off more so than others, or some people being held up to one standard that other groups are. What we need now to get a grip on this situation is firm, fast policing, which doesn't show fear and or favour to any group. And I think if you go out and you commit an attack that might be seen as terrorism, then you should go through the courts under that charge, including, for instance, setting a hotel on fire. That is obviously unacceptable. And if you're using violence to forward your own political agenda, then that is terrorism, and you should be charged with the full weight of the law.
Dr. Jeffrey, today is going to be a very, very serious day, a very tense day. And if there are 30, whether they're called demonstrations, whether they're called protests, they might well end up as riots. I think that is a good bet that would be the case. Police forces over the country stretched to that degree.
Yes, I mean, some of this is playing whack-a-mole as well. If the police don't know where these riots are going to start, or when, or how, then they're not going to be in the best position to actually police them. And with the way that these protests are being organised over things like Telegram and WhatsApp, the police don't really know what's going to happen until it happens. And, it's a very difficult position for them. Police are already overstretched anyway. We know that. And whether they're, after the last week, still in a position to robustly deal with these protests, with these riots, if it turns into that, then, it's not a good place to be in a police. And you can see some of the
What about the political pressure on the police? They face pressure from the public who are who've turned up to protest, and the politicians as well. The blame always seems to come down to the police.
Yes, and the police ultimately respond to the executive, to the cabinet, to the government. But the police do make a lot of operational decisions in the heat of the moment and do have strategies to deal with this. And we've seen different forces perhaps using different approaches for different groups. And that's something that will raise a few eyebrows. And I think that's one of the reasons why we get these calls to recall Parliament. Although formally Parliament can't really do anything in this situation. It's up to the government. We're not going to be passing laws about this. But it would be good, I think, for MPs to be able to question the government about their strategy in dealing with these and in different parts of the country. And that's why I think they've recalled the Northern Irish Assembly. And I think that's why they should follow suit and recall Parliament.
Can we talk about the role of Elon Musk, whether or not he has been fanning the flames? He really was laying into the Prime Minister yesterday. Interesting hearing a number of the Cabinet speaking about this, saying he's accountable to nobody. He has a huge reach, 193 million followers. What's your view on his position? Why do you think he's so concerned about what's happening here in Blighty?
I think Elon Musk is... obviously, he is unaccountable. He's a private citizen, and he ultimately owns one of the global public square, as he likes to call it. Why is he concerned about the UK? Well, because he has his own ideology, right? He is a political figure in and of himself. He's come out in support of Donald Trump, for instance. So he is a figure on the right, and also sometimes just likes to cause a bit of mischief. The issue is when you're one of the richest men in the world with 193 million followers, the odd tweet here and there really can inflame tensions, and I think. The answer isn't to ban Twitter, X, sorry. The answer isn't to ban it. We've seen many instances where Twitter's the force of habit, it has been used as a tool of good. And I think a knee-jerk reaction because the owner says something you don't like is quite dangerous. But I would prefer it if he dampened down some of his rhetoric somewhat, because I don't think the UK is heading towards civil war, like he said, even though these are quite pleasant riots.
But David, this is what it's all about with Musk. It's not about a business model as such with X. It's about political influence. And this guy, when he speaks, whether he's losing money on X or not, he still gets all the publicity and all the influence and all the manipulation that he needs.
Well, I mean, the first thing is that the UK government doesn't actually have any powers to kind of compel Musk to stop saying what he thinks. Any situation, any legislation that they try to bring in to curtail X probably won't be in time for this situation that we've got now. What really needs to do is actually just have the videos that circulate on X showing robust policing on the local level. And showing that the police are dealing with this, that the people are being sentenced quickly, and that everybody who goes out and causes trouble is dealt with in the same way. I think that would do more to dampen tensions than perhaps what Elon is saying. And remember, the vast majority of the public don't use X. If you are a kind of far-right agitator, there's enough material out there beyond Elon's tweets. This is just focusing on probably the most prolific or the most high-profile individual, but there's a whole ecosystem pushing out this type of material, and it's so much harder than just saying Elon should stop tweeting about whatever. This is a much more difficult.
We hope things pass without incident today. David, appreciate your take on things. David Jeffrey is a politics lecturer at the University of Liverpool. Thank you very much indeed.
Let's turn our attention to the United States. Well, I say that we're talking about Elon Musk, but let's focus on what has been several days of speculation after Kamala Harris finally picked who her running mate will be, and she chose the lesser-known Minnesota Governor Tim Walz.
Now, the two campaigned for the first time at a rally in Philadelphia overnight. Harris hailed Tim Walz as the Vice President America deserves. Let's get Ray Addison's take on all of this. So it's done. He's announced. Funny-looking character. I mean, he's not young. He's, well, how would you describe him?
Well, my first instinct when I saw him was that he looked like a sort of a younger, healthier Joe Biden. He's very sort of, he looks like, he was a football coach. You know, he looks like America's dad. And
Big dad energy is how Eric
there's a lot of dad energy going on.
Yeah.
So he's 60 years old, so he's only a year older than Kamala. But they're billing him as a champion for America's working.
Tell you what, he looks old for 60. He does.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. He's got a little bit of extra timber as well.
What does he stand for? Let's talk about that.
Well, what he stands for, what he's been criticised for by the Republicans is his stance on abortion. They've been criticised by his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. He introduced lockdowns for individuals and for businesses as well. He introduced a phone line where you could shop your neighbour, which has been heavily criticised too. He's pro-sanctuary cities. For people who've come into the US illegally, pro-trans rights. He's been described as a climate radical by those on the Republican side. Absolutely, and called soft on crime as well.
He was asked whether his Liberal record could be a potential risk for the ticket, and he jokingly said, "What a monster I am. Kids are eating and having full bellies so they can learn, and women are making their own healthcare decisions." Obviously, he refutes lots of those criticisms.
Oh, of course, absolutely, and where one would see a negative, Democrats would see...
They're delighted, aren't they?
Absolutely delighted. However, I think, there's been some question about the choice. A lot of people thought that the Vice President was going to choose Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro because of that first rally last night was in Pennsylvania, so that seemed to be heading that direction. It had been sort of leaked by a local mayor that he had been picked, and there's been criticism that maybe she shied away from that because of the reaction from some members of the Democratic Party, because Josh Shapiro is a Jewish man, and obviously there has been tensions within the party over the party's stance on Palestine.
Which we're going to talk about now. Ray, thank you very much indeed. Appreciate that. Joining us in the studio now, Gary Mond. Gary's the chairman of the National Jewish Assembly, and that's because pro-Palestinian protesters have been accused of anti-Semitism. This was a demonstration at a performance last night in London of Fiddler on the Roof. Gary, basically your reaction, I mean, this is very disturbing, this.
It's pure and simple anti-Semitism. There was nothing in the play Fiddler on the Roof about the state of Israel. Indeed, when Fiddler on the Roof was set, which is in Tsarist Russia in the early part of the 20th century, modern-day Israel didn't exist. The people who went there are quite simply Jew haters. They went there in order to stir up aggravation and for no other reason. This has nothing to do with politics and everything to do with anti-Semitism.
Yeah, a worrying scene, and this wasn't even an Israeli production.
No.
It wasn't necessarily even a Jewish cast, although it was obviously a story.
Nor indeed a Jewish audience.
It's
protecting Jewish values, I suppose, is the only connection that you could make.
Yes, there's a mixture of Jews and non-Jews in the audience. I myself am going to see the play in a few weeks' time. And it's about Jewish history, Jewish tradition, Jewish culture from Tsarist Russia, frankly. And
what form, Gary, did the protest take? What actually happened?
My understanding is that a group of between 10 and 20 demonstrators turned up at a cafe outside of the actual theatre, waving Palestinian flags, and started to remonstrate with people inside the cafe who were obviously about to go and watch the play, making provocative comments. And it was, frankly, I actually feel, and a lot of Jews feel this way, that the Palestinian flag is really a terror flag. It's not the flag of any particular individual country. It doesn't mean they're pro-Palestine. If they did, they would have been demonstrating years ago when Bashar Assad from Syria was massacring Palestinians. They weren't demonstrating that then. They're only demonstrating now because the conflict is with Jews. And for me, I regard the Palestinian flag as a terror flag.
Well, it's a very disturbing situation overall, ghastly what is going on in Palestine. But what are they trying to say to the people? What I don't really understand is how they make a political point on this. I mean, yes, they get attention, we're talking about it today, but where do they actually score political points? What do they want? Do they want Fiddler on the Roof cancelled? Do they? What is the association? Because that audience, I wouldn't go in there, and that audience was 90% Jewish last night.
Right. Their objective is to cancel the State of Israel, frankly.
Yeah.
In all honesty, Israel is the nation-state of Jewish people, and their general attitude is anti-Semitic, and they want to see the end of the State of Israel. That's their ultimate objective. And they want to make as much noise as they possibly can, draw as much attention to their cause as they possibly can, thinking it will influence politicians.
And will it influence politicians? Has their cause garnered any support because of what happened last night?
Well, I can't help noticing that in the previous Parliament, before the general election, I would say there were roughly 270 members of Parliament who represented political parties that lent the Palestinian way. That number is now 505. We're seeing a far greater number of MPs, both within the Labour Party, the Liberal Democrats, and, of course, these new pro-Palestinian independent MPs who are representing their cause, which I regard as very worrying.
Goodness me. Well, Gary Mond from the National Jewish Assembly, thanks very much for coming in and talking to us this morning.
Thank you very much indeed. Let's have a look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom.
An inquest into the deaths of the 3 little girls who lost their lives in Southport last Monday will be opened after a 17-year-old was charged with their murders. BB King, Elsie Dot Stankham and Alice De Silva Aguirre were at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class when the attack happened.
Water companies facing a combined record fine, this one of 168 million, after a series of failings, including sewage spills. Thames Water, Northumbrian and Yorkshire were issued the penalty by the regulator Ofwat. Thames is facing the biggest fine, 104 million with them alone.
And good news for cat lovers. A study has found that the felines do, in fact, have feelings, and many even grieve the loss of fellow pets. Of the 400 cats who were part of the study, the vast majority showed signs of mourning, including going off their food, sleeping more and playing less.
I think it's fascinating how we are being shown and educated in the feelings of animals here, and that they mourn and that they can sense when things are wrong, and they can show and they can demonstrate lots and lots of love as well.
Cats are understudied compared to dogs, and so I think that there's a lot of unknowns still about them. But anyone that's had a cat can tell you that they have feelings, and we get the cold shoulder when we come back from holiday. Cat definitely
the huff.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, about 24 hours when Hector doesn't want to talk to us, but that's fine.
Does your animal go in the huff when you disappear on your summer holidays? Let us know. The weather today, let's see how summer-like it will be. Good morning, Alex Deacon.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. It's a day of sunshine and showers. Some places won't see too many showers. Others, particularly Western Scotland, we'll see lots of them. That's where the low pressure is. You can see the swirl here. Very wet day, basically, across the Highlands. The closer you are to the low, the more showers you'll see. So they'll be on and off through the day for Northern Ireland, northwest England. Further south, the showers a bit more scattered, so longer, drier spells, particularly this afternoon over the Midlands and Wales. Some decent spells of sunshine here. Not many showers at all across southern and eastern England. Generally a dry day and a fresher feel as well. Could still get to 22, 23. Further north, temperatures mostly in the high teens and feeling cool with a pretty brisk wind. That will chug the showers along quite a bit here across parts of the northwest, whereas further south, well, we might see a shower zipping through, but generally it's a fine day and a fine evening as well. A few more showers across northern England, but even here I suspect by this evening the showers fading, as they should across Northern Ireland. We'll keep the showers going across western Scotland, but again to the east, still some fine weather to be had through the evening time. Plenty of sunshine likely here. Staying fairly blustery and showery across the Northern Isles through this evening. Elsewhere, many places becoming dry with lengthy clear spells, but notice the cloud gathering down to the southwest. It's going to mix things up a little bit for Thursday. The cloud increasing for Wales and southwest England. Things turning a bit damp here by Thursday morning. Quite a warm night as well as that cloud moves in. Temperatures holding up at 14 or 15, 12 to 13 elsewhere. So for tomorrow, perhaps a bright sunny start. Of course, eastern Scotland, much of central and eastern England, but a different day for Wales, southwest England, grey, rain and drizzle on and off, particularly over hills and around coasts. Some of that rain at times coming into Northern Ireland and eventually southern Scotland, but generally a drier day over the Highlands. Again, parts of eastern England staying fine all day, and here the top temperatures of 24 degrees. Bye for now.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Big reaction to the civil unrest over the country. You feel very, very strongly, understandably, about all of this, no matter what side you're on. Jim says the police should use baton charges, water cannons, rubber bullets to disperse the crowds. But having said that, Jim says Starmer needs to examine government policies. He needs to understand why the people feel the need to protest like this. This is disquiet over illegal immigration. People outside Islington don't like it.
Michael says any of these rioters found guilty should have a lifetime ban from football or rugby, if they're into sport, that is. He says they are scum, it is not free speech. And he goes on to say Elon Musk should not be allowed to own Twitter and use it as a personal, direct way of influencing people's behaviour to riot in other countries. Take it off him.
Well, I think that's an interesting debate because Musk is getting himself a lot of attention, and he is like an unelected Yes, he's making things that people are saying, oh, Elon Musk says this. Who cares what Elon Musk says? What's he want to fly to the blooming moon for and Mars or whatever and all that? Let him go up there. Neo says, if I was a police officer now, I would be ashamed of my job. I'm surprised some haven't kicked back or resigned over two-tier policing. So a lot of you definitely believe that exists.
And Thomas says Starmer wants to rush the arrest and conviction of rioters, doesn't want to address the underlying issues that is causing it. Obviously, he believes that it's criminal action and needs to be dealt separately by the judiciary.
And here's one for you all to think about. Dave says Starmer's totally misjudging the public mood, and so is mainstream media. With a majority like Starmer's, he can get away with anything. How misjudged are we, everybody in general, about the feeling out there which is behind these protests? They are ghastly, they are awful, they are horrible, but the reason for them, no one's discussing the reason for them. Here's the competition.
Yeah, £30,000.
Don't miss out on your chance to win a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. It's extra cash that could really make a difference to your coming year. You could find yourself on that holiday you've always wanted to take, buy that treat that always seemed out of reach, or just send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. £30,000 could be yours. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Right, still to come, the Olympics has been marred by a gender debate in boxing. We'll be talking about that in just a moment.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes, she could have said stump.
You made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter, with a sharp take on every story.
It went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We were talking about Elon Musk just before the break, and just remembered that Donald Trump has announced that Elon Musk will be interviewing him next week. So there you are, more publicity for
$45 million a month or something. He's bankrolling the Trump campaign at the moment, Elon Musk. I don't know if it was per month or per day, something like that, but a huge amount of money. So that's an interesting development in that. This next story is one that I think the more I read about it, the more confused I am. I don't know about you, Eamonn. It is the Women's Olympics boxing row, and it's rumbling on because last night the Algerian boxer Eamonn successfully got through to Friday's final against China's Yang Liu.
The news comes after Kelly found herself at the centre of a gender debate. Now, that's made headlines. We're talking about it as a result of that. She was banned from competing in the World Championships, but allowed to attend the Olympics. Come on, let's have some consistency, you know, as regards all of this. Joined now by the developmental biologist and trustee of sex matters, Professor Emma Hilton, and discrimination barrister Robin Mora-White.
Good morning to you both. It's important, I suppose, to stress at this point that Eamonn Khalif was born a female, raised a female. There are photographs of her as a child, and this is about her chromosomes and her hormones and all of that. So let's get into a bit of the science, first of all, with you, Professor Emma Hilton. What is the problem? She has raised levels of testosterone, which is perceived to give her an unfair advantage. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, I think you're right. It's important to think that we're talking about sex here, not gender. What we do know is that Khalif has XY chromosomes. There are reports of high testosterone. So this tells us that Khalif has male biology. And that is independent, perhaps, of legal documentation or how Khalif feels about identities. And what we know is that we don't usually let males box against females. The boxing federations have been unanimously clear on this because of safety risks. But the IOC are trying to tell us that that doesn't matter, that males can actually be in a boxing ring against females as long as their legal documents say that they're female. And that's creating a big problem now when we think about safety for athletes.
OK, well, let's bring in Robin Mora-White in all of this, because it is such a difficult one. There are those people that say she shouldn't be questioned in this way. It's all so crude. What's your position in it?
Well, I mean, obviously you're right about that. Having a debate about an individual on, feeding them into the meat grinder of social media and the media generally is not the right way to deal with matters like this. We actually, to be fair, Emma, I'm not sure we really know what Eamonn Khalifa's circumstances are. People think they know. A number of statements have been made in the public domain, but he is a particular individual. I think we can talk more generally and recognise that there are a category of people with what are called DSDs, differences of sexual development, who are on that cusp of male and female. And the right outcome in terms of the individual or their participation in sport will depend on, crucially, on the detail of that circumstance.
Yeah. But Robin, the blame here,
quietly and calmly and directly.
Where we're not getting a lead is from the boxing authorities themselves. And the fact is that they have only themselves to blame about this because...
Well, you've got this awful dispute, haven't you, between the IOC and the IBA, the Russian-led federation. And for example, and I don't know whether this is true or not, but it is said by some people that the series of sex tests applied to the pair of boxers was motivated by the fact that they'd just beaten a pair of Russian boxers. And it was used in a particular way. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. I don't think we know. But what is definitely wrong is the way in which this is being played out.
Yeah, well, I can see you trying to say something there, Professor Hilton.
No, I just think that we're spending, and we could spend some time talking about the administration, the fighting and the tension between federations here. But really, we need to start coming back to some very basic scientific facts when we're starting to understand about fairness and, in the case of boxing, safety. I actually agree with Robin. I think we need to pull away from individualised attacks. I think that having athletes under this kind of spotlight in the media is not fair. And I think that we do need to start thinking about
It is fair, Robin. Emma, it is fair. And if you were in the ring opposite Khalif, you would change your opinion. The thing is, if she has male characteristics, if she's got the muscle mass of a male and whatever, she should not be in that ring. Yeah.
I absolutely agree. I'm saying it's unfair that this kind of debate is being played out in the media spotlight when it's all focused on one athlete. There is a very simple way to get around this, and this is to do this kind of testing early on before an athlete is in the spotlight, to do it in a non-targeted way, to submit everyone who wants to compete in the female category for a simple cheek swab or blood test to confirm that they're eligible for that category.
And what would that be testing for in the cheek swab? Because she has undergone, Eamonn Khalif, the Olympic Committee's tests.
No, their tests. Their tests aren't any. They look at your passport, and if it says if you were.
So what would the swab show? Is this going to show levels of hormones, or is it DNA and chromosomes, or what would you get from that?
A swab will tell you chromosomes, and you can use those chromosomes to analyse the DNA more deeply. A blood test will give you both DNA and hormone readouts.
And is this a similar... I mean, I know you don't want to talk about individuals, but a lot of people remember the case of the South African Caster Semenya, and she was banned from competing because she had elevated levels of testosterone. Would you agree with that decision in her case?
Yes, Caster Semenya has male biology, and I don't think that we can allow that into the female category. We need to preserve fairness, and in this case, safety. Now, the DSD that Caster Semenya has is very likely to be the candidates that we're thinking about here. Those DSDs where someone might be born and might be observed to be a girl, but actually all of their internal biology is male. And that's what gives men advantage.
And Robin, so complicated when you think of it like that. We're not talking that this woman is transgender or anything like that, just to make that clear to people. But it's complex, goodness me, isn't it?
Well, I think where it leads us, and one of the dangers it leads us to, is policing appearance and saying, by looking at somebody, we can make a judgment. That's absolutely wrong.
Yes, that is wrong, my friend. But as I said before, if she's in the ring with a female opponent and her muscle mass is different, her strength is different, her reach is different.
No.
She's got more male characteristics than
Eamonn,
female.
forgive me. If that's because of the DSD, then that's certainly one thing. But of course, athletes, successful athletes, select for people with unusual characteristics. We don't have small, dumpy high jumpers, for example. So I think Emma and I are very close on this, that this is a complex circumstance that needs to be dealt with out of the spotlight.
Okay, but could I ask both of you, do you believe that Khalif, do you both believe, I'll ask you separately, do you believe that Khalif should be taking part in that final? Does she deserve to be in the ring the way things stand, or has more testing to be done?
I don't know what her personal circumstances are, so I can't answer that question without knowing the science.
Okay. And what about you, Emma?
I would argue that because this is boxing, we need to have the utmost of precaution here. And I think there is more testing to be done before we can allow Khalif back into the ring.
Thank you both very much indeed. Very interesting. I'm not sure we progress much with that, but we hear exactly what you're saying, and this is a subject that isn't going to go away in the next few months. Thank you both.
Thank you. We're going to stay with All Matters Olympics in just a moment when we get an update from Paul Coit on all the very latest. See you in a second.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In North Yorkshire, the A65 remains closed in both directions west of Settle after an accident yesterday morning. In Derbyshire on the A50, there's a lane closed eastbound after an accident between junctions 4 and 3 south of Derby, causing delays. In the West Midlands, the A457 is closed each way along Oldbury Road in Smethwick after an accident, with delays as you divert. On the M25 in Essex, there are anti-clockwise delays towards and past junction 29 for the A127, where a lorry broke down earlier. London Overground services are suspended between Romford and Upminster because of an obstruction on the line. Trains between Sutton and Epsom Downs have been stopped because of an incident. On the M26 in Kent, there are westbound queues taking nearly half an hour approaching the M25 because of roadworks. And in West Sussex, the A259 is partly blocked westbound by an accident near Eldon Way in Littlehampton. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled.
Lovely. Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Coity's here, talking all things politics. Not politics, even.
I can do
Let's
if you
get
want.
off politics
You don't
for
want
once,
that, but
please.
listen,
So
1,500
let's talk all
metres.
things Olympics, because it was an exciting night and there's more to come.
Yeah, 1,500 metres yesterday. All the talk about two runners, Josh Kerr of Great Britain, Jakob Ingebrigtsen of Norway. They're the two rivals. It was going to be one of those. Who was going to win the race? So Jakob Ingebrigtsen goes out very fast because he knows he has a faster time, a better PB, personal best, than Kerr. But they all forgot about Cole Hocker from the USA. And
coming up the inside.
But you know what? Coming the inside, and he's had no time like this. I'm looking at who is this guy? I'm looking at him thinking, I don't even know who he was.
Yeah.
And surprised everybody, and I mean absolutely everybody. He won the gold. Josh Kerr came in with the silver, but you can't argue with that because 3:27.79 is a new British record, personal best for him. Ingebrigtsen ended up fourth, and he was another American came through. Great race.
Now you're
Very
saying great race, and you're saying like almost if it was a film you wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
But there's been so many films inspired by the Olympics.
Well, there is one, and I don't know whether you ever seen the film The Games?
No.
The film The Games, 1970, Michael Crawford was in it. It's the most bizarre cast. You've got Michael Crawford, plays a British or a long-distance runner who's a milkman. So stop me if I start getting very confusing. Charles Aznavour...
The singer?
She may be the beauty of the... He plays a Czech runner. So there's Charles Aznavour. Ryan O'Neill from Love Story, because it was the guy that wrote Love Story actually wrote The Games. He's in it as an American runner who then is a drugs cheat, and everything that you see... I remember, I haven't seen this film for years, and they should put this on TV again. So it's called The Games, 1970, and it's... I always remember it being great, and I looked at the reviews this morning on the way in, and everybody's given it was like 1 out of 10. This is why this never did anything, but I always remember it being really good, and it was set around the Rome Olympics, so if you ever see The Games, look out for The Games. Michael Crawford.
I like Chariots of Fire myself.
That's still a classic, but everybody knows what a classic.
What else was there? Eddie the Eagle. These are all sort of Olympics.
That's your Winter Olympics, your Winter Olympics movie. But summer Olympic films for me. I'm surprised you haven't seen that.
I haven't seen that one. So when was the Rome Olympics? Because it was Mexico, 68,
Rome was
and Germany.
64 was Tokyo. 68 was, I think it's probably fictitious.
1842.
Yes, that was it.
What year was it?
The Rome Olympics.
1960.
1960, yeah.
But the film was made 10 years later.
10 years later.
Yeah.
There we go.
Good film. Very good.
Good.
But they never had skateboarding in those days,
and
but we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Worms in the fish and the one about Paris.
No, all of that stuff. No, worms in the fish.
So tell us, the guy we've got in the skateboarding is, he's really old.
Andy McDonald, he's been a guest on this show. I spoke to him, hopefully going to have him on tomorrow. Andy McDonald's 51.
Brilliant.
So the average age of the skateboarders is around 15 or 16. 14-year-old won it yesterday for Australia. Sky Brown is 16, who dislocated her shoulder right before she skated. Really brave. She was brilliant. And so Andy McDonald, for us, goes today. He lives in America, huge skateboarding star, but he's 51.
Well, good luck, Andy.
Gives
good
hope
luck
to all of us. Good luck. Andy, there he is there with us.
Young at heart. Thank you very much indeed, Paul. Thank you. We're going to debate the stories making the stories in the newspapers today. We'll do that with Claire Muldoon and Scarlett Maguire right after this.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
King Charles has launched his own aftershave, costing, wait for it, an eye-watering 135 quid for a 100 millilitre bottle, promising buyers that they can smell just like the gardens of his Highgrove country pile. Now, this is something that Meghan Markle would do, surely not the King. Is this a case of King Charles selling out, watering down the brand, just like Meghan. Well, join me now to discuss this is the royal broadcaster, Helena Chard. Helena, welcome to the show.
Martin,
often on this
hi.
show, we've had a pop at Meghan Markle, the Sussexers, for selling out, for flogging strawberry jam, and now the King is flogging Pong. Is this really the right royal thing to do?
Do you know what? So the joy of luxury Highgrove splash. You know, at the end of the day, Highgrove is such a special place, and the Highgrove shop sells amazing things on there. And as we know, the profit actually goes towards charity. So it's the King's Foundation, which was formed in 1986. Profits go towards educational and training, and it's all to do with this sort of sustainable world. But not to forget as well the charitable aspect and the whole ethos of the King's Foundation, and that's so important. This is not just something that's going up on the website and just being sold purely to go into someone's pocket. So I think, you know, all in all, I think everyone should have a look at the Highgrove website and see what's on for sale. I mean, there are lots of really lovely, I think pretty fairly priced products. And even more so, go and see the gardens. You know, as we know, King Charles is a keen environmentalist and the gardens are fabulous.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled. Lovely.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We've got Claire Muldoon, we've got Scarlett Maguire, and they're going to talk about Kate Winslet, the actress who's making the papers today, Scarlett. And why is she making the papers?
Why is she making the papers? Because the camera... So she's in this... She's making a film, and the cameraman said, look, if you sit up, then I'm not going to see all your tummy rolls. And she goes... Yeah, but they're my tummy rolls. And I think all of us, well, obviously, Isabel looks so gorgeous that not, but some of us who do have tummy rolls and trying to, I mean, even if I
but
sit
Scarlett,
up...
people with tummy rolls can be gorgeous too. I think I'm pretty gorgeous.
You're pretty gorgeous.
Thank you.
You're pretty gorgeous, and I have a tummy...
I think most people have tummy rolls as well.
Well, I think they do, because it's normality, isn't it?
Whether they're thin or not, you know, I think...
Yeah, but I think what she's doing is body positivity. She's a good, solid, size 12, which in Hollywood is unheard of for an A-lister. She's done a lot of really positive stuff online about trying to keep her daughter off social media. She did that film with her daughter about it, didn't she?
Yeah.
I think she's using her voice for positive things, which is, you've got to celebrate that. You don't like her.
Do you?
No, you'd rather she just... Constant preened on the red carpet.
Why is this even news? Eh?
Why is it even... Because most people wouldn't do it. I mean, look at how many Hollywood A-listers, you know, have,
but we
as
know
we say,
Hollywood's
work
fake.
done.
We know it's fake. More people... I'll tell you, some of these rioters have probably had work done, such as the extent of influencers on Instagram. They will go and get their lips like a trout. They will go and get things tucked in, moved about. That's, again, back to the menu of the NHS that I completely abhor. So for a Hollywood A-lister who actually has got a film to promote and is the front page of Bazaar magazine, she's given it, I don't mind my rolls.
But as a mum of daughters, there must be a part of you that thinks, good for her, speaking up, because there's so much pressure on young women.
Why do they fall to the pressure? They should be strong, independent women, regardless of their shape, regardless of their colour.
If your daughter was worried about her appearance, you'd say it's because she was a weak woman.
I didn't say we knew.
You said they should be strong, independent women, so they shouldn't be worried about it. So if they are worried...
Well, I think what Claire's saying is she's not the opposite of that. She's not buckling under all of that. I think she's a superb actress. And I find her attitude quite refreshing. You're not a fan, though.
I'm not a fan of her anyway. I don't think she's a particularly good actress, apart from in The Mayor of Eastwood, I think it was. She was outstanding. But I don't like actresses using, you know, that's their job, right? My job is to comment on the papers and, you know, do other things. My first job, however, is a mother. And I would like to
but
think
her
that...
job is dependent on how she looks, a lot of it.
And it hasn't done her any harm, has it, so far?
They are role models.
You know?
They are role models.
I think it's really good that she just says, I'm me, and this is how I look. And because it is quite depressing when I mean, my friends say to me, oh, but all the young people, you know, they do these lip pouts and things like that. And you go, no, but I go on the tube all the time, and there are masses and masses of really attractive and unattractive women who do nothing. And actually what you want is people like Kate Winslet going, this is what a normal person looks like.
Let's talk about what Prince William is doing, Claire. He's continuing his attention and his drive to end homelessness, which I'm glad to hear, because it sort of went quiet for a while, and I thought, well, what is he actually doing here? What's happening on this front? So what is happening?
I think this is a really positive dynamic, positive initiative from Kensington Palace and indeed the Prince of Wales. He's focusing on homelessness and his drive, no pun intended, because one of the sculptures has actually made a house out of an old Peugeot car that he actually lived in whilst he was homeless.
Oh, right.
So what they're actually turning the narrative, instead of the helplessness of homelessness, they're actually producing hope in
So
pieces
what are you
of
telling
art.
me? They're going to convert more cars for people to live in, no?
Oh, no. This is an exhibition at the Saatchi Gallery to enable people to show that homelessness does exist. It's abhorrent that it's actually in our society as we live and breathe it. And they've got sculptures. Daniel Tovey was the one who made the car that he actually lived in whilst he was homeless.
Yeah.
We can see it there on screen. It's a remarkable piece of art.
Yes. But what I would say, Scarlett, about homelessness is not only is it distressing, and it's a complicated thing maybe as to why it exists, but it's becoming definitely more widespread.
Oh yeah, and there's what you call street homeless, where you see people sleeping out on the street, but there's masses and masses of hidden homeless, where, as Claire says, people staying in their cars, people sofa surfing, so they stay with friends because there's nowhere else to live, and then the masses of people who never leave their parents' home because they can't move out.
You would term that as a form of...
Well, it is a form of... I mean, my son took 6 months to find somewhere to live. Where when he was living with me, I mean, this was only in the last few years, because he was between houses. He thought, oh, I'll come and look after Mum, as he put it, for a month or so, and ended up staying for ages. And I mean, homelessness is not having a place of your own, and it's when you don't have somewhere to live, it's actually. It completely wrecks everything else.
It does.
But I saw last week on the news, it was Northern Irish news, and these were a couple in their late 50s, and they had missed their payments on their rental home.
Yeah.
And they were asked to leave the home, and they have absolutely nowhere to go. They have no money reserves, nothing. And, I mean, these people had broken down. They were in absolute tears talking about this. But when your whole dignity goes, I mean, you're identified by who you are, where you live type thing.
Yeah, and you can't, get documents. Documents if you don't have a home address.
Yes.
There's an ex-footballer, Lou Macari, who was Celtic, and he set up a wonderful initiative. He's actually got, it's like, for want of a better word, it's an aircraft carrier, but it's not. It's somewhere like that in size. And he's put sheds in them to give everyone an address.
Brilliant.
So they can get access
so they actually
to
have a post box there.
an e-hit card, maybe they're not British nationals, or their passports, or documents to get children into schools. You need an address. It's a fundamental human right. And we've got families with children living in temporary accommodation at the moment. It is horrific.
And could I just say, Lou was a superb Celtic player.
He was.
But he also played for Manchester United.
Is he better for Man U or better
He was
for Celtic?
good on both of them. Guys, thank you very much indeed. We've got to say goodbye to you.
And here's the weather.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. It's a day of sunshine and showers. Some places won't see too many showers. Others, particularly Western Scotland, we'll see lots of them. That's where the low pressure is. You can see the swirl here. Very wet day, basically, across the Highlands. The closer you are to the low, the more showers you'll see. So they'll be on and off through the day for Northern Ireland, northwest England. Further south, the showers a bit more scattered, so longer, drier spells, particularly this afternoon over the Midlands and Wales. Some decent spells of sunshine here. Not many showers at all across southern and eastern England. Generally a dry day and a fresher feel as well. Could still get to 22, 23. Further north, temperatures mostly in the high teens and feeling cool with a pretty brisk wind. That will chug the showers along quite a bit here across parts of the northwest, whereas further south, well, we might see a shower zipping through, but generally it's a fine day and a fine evening as well. A few more showers across northern England, but even here I suspect by this evening the showers fading, as they should across Northern Ireland. We'll keep the showers going across western Scotland, but again to the east, still some fine weather to be had through the evening time. Plenty of sunshine likely here. Staying fairly blustery and showery across the Northern Isles through this evening. Elsewhere, many places becoming dry with lengthy clear spells, but notice the cloud gathering down to the southwest. It's going to mix things up a little bit for Thursday. The cloud increasing for Wales and southwest England. Things turning a bit damp here by Thursday morning. Quite a warm night as well as that cloud moves in. Temperatures holding up at 14 or 15, 12 to 13 elsewhere. So for tomorrow, perhaps a bright sunny start across eastern Scotland, much of central and eastern England, but a different day for Wales, southwest England, grey, rain and drizzle on and off, particularly over hills and around coasts. Some of that rain at times coming into Northern Ireland and eventually southern Scotland, but generally a drier day over the Highlands. Again, parts of eastern England staying fine all day, and here the top temperatures.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In North Yorkshire, the A65 remains closed in both directions west of Settle after an accident yesterday morning. In Derbyshire on the A50, there's a lane closed eastbound after an accident between junctions 4 and 3, south of Derby, causing delays. In the West Midlands, the A457 is closed each way along Albury Road at Smethwick after an accident, with delays as you divert. London Overground services are suspended between Romford and Upminster because of an obstruction on the line. Trains have been stopped between Sutton and Epsom Downs because of an incident. Queues on the M26 in Kent heading west towards the M25, taking roughly half an hour because of roadworks. In Hampshire, the A36 remains closed northbound off the West Wallow services roundabout at Hour for emergency repairs. And in West Sussex, the A259 is partly blocked westbound by an accident near Eldon Way and Littlehampton, causing delays. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
We could be calling you with the news that you've won our latest Great British giveaway. An incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. David from Kent was our last big winner. Listen to what he had to say about getting that winning call.
Hi, I'm David from Kent and I won £15,000 and it couldn't have come at a better time. I was gobsmacked. What have you got to lose for what it costs? In fact, I've done it again this week, so I'd recommend it to anybody.
For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Hello there, very good morning to you. Britain on a knife edge with 6,000 police officers on standby.
As the nation is bracing for up to 30 demonstrations at immigration centres today.
Following last night's emergency Cobra meeting, Britain's top prosecutor is now warning rioters could be charged with terror offences.
You are likely to be dealt with within a week, and that nobody, but nobody, should be involving themselves in this disorder.
Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, that's the official Democratic ticket ahead of November's US election, as the former teacher and Minnesota governor hopes to waltz his way to the White House.
Welcome the next Vice President of the United States, Tim Walz.
Anti-Semitism on the rise. Pro-Palestinian protesters target a performance of the Jewish musical Fiddler on the Roof.
And the Olympics, well, the Olympic 1,500-metre final, it was a fantastic race. Not won, though, by either Britain's Josh Kerr or Norway's Jakob Ingebrigtsen, but American Cole Hocker, who surprised everyone, including me. 16-year-old Sky Brown dislocated her shoulder an hour before she won the skateboarding bronze. And today we're hoping for some more sailing medals, whilst Charlie Hull, there's a sailing link there, goes to the golf, but she's not allowed to smoke while she plays.
It's a sunshine and showers day, but the emphasis definitely on the sunshine across the south and the east. The emphasis definitely on the showers for the north and west. Join me later for a full forecast.
Coming up to 2 minutes past 8 o'clock on this Wednesday morning, I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster, and you're tuned in to GB News Breakfast.
Well, after a week of riots and demonstrations, more than 6,000 police officers have been mobilised ahead of anti-immigration gatherings throughout the country today.
Already, more than 400 people have been arrested following the unrest in nearly 24 cities.
Now, speaking after an emergency Cobra meeting last night, the Prime Minister pledged rioters will feel the full force of the law.
I made it very clear on a number of occasions that those involved will feel the full force of the law. So we coordinated, we went through some of the numbers. Over 400 people now have been arrested, 100 have been charged, some in relation to online activity, and a number of them are already in court. And I'm now expecting substantive sentencing before the end of this week.
However, speaking exclusively on GB News last night, the former Home Secretary Priti Patel and potential future Tory leader called for more accountability from the government.
This is why we have to have the questions, the scrutiny to the Home Secretary and to Keir Starmer, because actually the police need to have the tools, the equipment, the backing to police in the right way across all protests. Doesn't matter who, but literally all the protests where we're seeing thuggery, violence, criminality, everyone that's involved in that, these protests should be policed. I've seen footage on television, I'm sure you have as well. I saw some on social media last night from one part of the country where I saw no police. I want to know why that was. Why was there no police presence?
Well, host of Protect and Serve podcast and former police officer Oliver Lawrence joins us now with his take on all of this. And Oliver, today, it could be a tinderbox day.
Yeah, good morning, Eamonn. Good morning, Isabel. Yes, it could be. 6,000 police officers on standby waiting to see if any of these protests go ahead. Obviously, we're looking at a bright, sunshiny day. That's obviously going to encourage people to come out more than it does. Obviously, it's raining. So police officers have been battling this issue for the past week, facing a number of different challenges. I don't think it's been helped by the government and the very divisive use of language that we've seen right across the country. But fingers crossed for policing, and obviously wishing all my colleagues a very safe day.
Speaking of your colleagues, I just wanted to read one of the messages that we had in this morning from one of our viewers, and they said, this is Neo, if I was a police officer, I would be so ashamed of my job. I'm surprised some haven't kicked back or resigned over this two-tier policing. Do you share that view?
Isabel, I've been fighting with that saying for the past week, but I don't know how you can come to any other conclusion now. I saw last night a superintendent up in West Midlands give an incredible briefing disclosing why they chose not to attend a violent disorder involving a group of Asian males who were chasing journalists, slashing tyres and carrying incredibly dangerous weapons. And that was because they'd had a meeting with community leaders who said everything was okay and there was no need to attend. We haven't seen any other circumstances where that behaviour would be tolerated. So I'm afraid this saying of two-tier policing is gaining traction, and the police are not coming up with any strategies to convince us otherwise.
Talking about strategies and need to attend, Lawrence, Gina has been in touch with us today, and she said, I agree that children should not go on marches like this and that the parents should be held accountable. What's your take on that? What sort of responsibility do you think lies with parents?
Well, I think parents should have a huge responsibility in this in managing their children. And we're seeing kids as young as 14 get involved in these violent disruptions.
Young as 11.
It's incredible. These are incredible ages, 11 years of age, attending these violent disruptions. I think, yes, there should be a high degree of accountability on parents. This is where parents and community leaders need to step up. This isn't going to be a problem just solved by frontline policing. Policing is there to stop the violence and to protect the community. Parents and community leaders alike need to step up and support and make sure they know where their kids are and keep them at home.
There is a chance today might not be as violent as perhaps some of the weekend that we saw, is there not, given that we've now seen our first conviction, we've had 400 arrests, and we're told by the Director of Public Prosecutions, Mr Parkinson, that at least one of those who've been arrested is facing terror charges, and obviously that carries with it a very significant sentencing.
I think, Isabel, this is a great move by the government in terms of speeding up this process and really demonstrating to those who make the erroneous decision to turn up to these events and to cause violent disruption that they will be dealt with very, very quickly. I'm surprised that we've been able to see as many spaces open up within our prison systems. We know that they are absolutely chock-a-block, so encouraged to see that, but also interested to know how we've been able to make those spaces. Our courts are absolutely rammed, so I'm equally surprised that we've been able to process people as quickly as we've been able to, but all encouraging signs, and hopefully will be the deterrent that we all need to see stability back in our communities.
Except we're looking at Northern Irish Police Land Rovers right now, and you've got paramilitary involvement, loyalist paramilitary involvement there in Belfast as well. So that really steps things up a gear, does it not?
It does. Volatilities like that really do step it up, and the significance of the risk not only to law enforcement but equally to understand the dynamics, particularly in Northern Ireland, is a huge challenge for law enforcement. But I think this just goes to show how much this isn't just tragically about the loss of life of 3 young children last week. This is about a broader issue which has been boiling up for a long, long time. Immigration. People want to see the government tackling these big issues. And just because I, you or Isabel believe in strong immigration doesn't mean we're far right. It just means we care for our country and we want to see rules enforced. So I think the government's equally got to take a huge accountability step in the use of language and show that it's here to look after all of society, not only particularly one corner of it.
Oliver Lawrence, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed.
And we'll bring in our GB News reporter, Adam Cherry, to talk some more about the politics in all of this. It was interesting, whilst the Prime Minister was trying to deal with a national crisis, he was getting repeated jibes from across the Atlantic from the owner of X, formerly known as Twitter, Elon Musk, who also had the hashtag trending by halfway through the day, two-tier Keir. How unhelpful, how much of a distraction, how inflammatory has his involvement been, do you think?
Yeah, this has been going on for a couple of days now with Elon Musk. As you say, two-tier Keir, referring to the UK, or comparing the UK to the Soviet Union, and several similar posts. Downing Street so far have said on Monday that this two-tier policing comparison is wrong, and rejecting the idea that the UK is heading for civil war, as Elon Musk said. So pushing back in a robust way. Elon Musk continuing with this, though, even in the last 24 hours. So I wouldn't expect him to stop anytime soon. He's a firebrand. This is sort of his shtick. This is what he does. Of course, it's not helpful, but the politics of this are being stirred up regardless of what he tweets over across the Atlantic. This two-tier policing issue is not going away. And even his opponents across the green benches are making similar points. As we saw earlier, Priti Patel making that claim, and Robert Jenrick, both, of course, Conservative leadership hopefuls. Robert Jenrick yesterday releasing a video saying that while we don't necessarily have two-tier policing, the police deal with violence as they see it, he and his team think that we have two-tier governing. So the Prime Minister, the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper and others are robust in criticising the far-right protests, as they should be, the horrors that we're seeing there, but perhaps more reluctant to do so for the sectarian gangs that appear to be violent, as we saw in Birmingham yesterday, for example.
And I suppose, you know, this is a real test of a very new government, and we saw a Home Office Minister being readily criticised by previously very experienced politicians, the likes of James Cleverly, who was Home Secretary, saying, hang on a minute, Jess Phillips should not be making the comments that she made, almost being seen to justify the actions of a number of protesters in Birmingham.
Yeah, I think the problem Labour are having is they were expecting a relatively smooth start to their premiership and go into recess, and the real governing will begin in the autumn. Actually, they have a lot of problems on their doorstep right away, and this is among perhaps the worst start you could expect from a government 1 month into its premiership. So yeah, they need to get used to the fact they're not in opposition anymore, and statements like that, I suspect they will come to regret in some way.
Okay. Adam, thanks for putting us in the picture. We'll leave it there. Adam Cherry. Let's bring in Ray Addison, who's sitting beside me now. And Ray, we're talking about the American election, and Kamala Harris it has announced her running mate.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is the 60-year-old governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz. He's a father of two. He's very active on social media, and his kids feature in them often, particularly his daughter, Hope. He was raised on a small Nebraska farm. So he's very similar in that way to J.D. Vance, that sort of small-town Americana kind of vibe. And they're hoping that he's going to be able to appeal to the sort of more conservative, kind of rural, white working-class elements of America. He was in the National Guard, joined when he was 17. And just like J.D. Vance, he put himself through college on the GI Bill. So it's that kind of American dream story element to it as well. Re-enlisted after 9/11, rose to a sergeant after was in there for 24 years, and studied as a high school teacher, and eventually became a football coach, took his college to state champions from years of failure in just 3 years.
Ray, well, why does all that matter? Why does all that matter? Because nobody votes for a vice president.
I think the problem is so little of America understands the current vice president, Kamala Harris, that we are seeing a focus on the VP picks. Everybody knows Trump. Kamala Harris didn't do a lot while Joe Biden was, he obviously still is president, but she's kind of been in the shadows a lot. So people are saying, well, they needed something to balance that out. He's got a history of governing. He's got a history of success, and he is very much, American.
So he
to
can
his
add
core.
stability to her. He can add credibility to her ticket.
He balances that ticket up, and where people say, "Well, hold on, you've done nothing, you've achieved nothing." She didn't even win a primary. Obviously, she didn't. She dropped out of the primaries, before Biden went on to sweep them, and so she's kind of been hand-picked, and now Biden's stepping down. She's kind of become the nominee just by default because they didn't want to have an internal war in the Democratic Party. So people are saying, well, hold on, does she have the right to be here? But in Walz, we've got somebody who has, been there, done that, proven it, and he ticks a lot of those boxes that people are very concerned about.
OK, well, we'll know a lot more about him as the year progresses. Ray, thank you very much indeed.
The time's 8:13. Let's take a look now at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom.
An inquest into the deaths of the 3 little girls who lost their lives in Southport last Monday will be opened after a 17-year-old was charged with their murders. There's the pictures of the 3 of them, and they were at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class when the attack happened.
We're going to be talking about this next hour. Water companies are facing a combined record fine of £168 million after a series of failings, including sewage spills. Thames Water, Northumbrian and Yorkshire Water were all issued the penalties by the regulator Ofwat. Thames facing the biggest fine of them all at £104 million.
And some good news for cat lovers. A study has found cats do, in fact, have feelings, and many even grieve the loss of fellow pets. Of the 400 cats which were part of the study, the vast majority showed signs of mourning, including going off food, sleeping more and playing less. Now, the Ofwat fines into the water companies, what happens to that money?
That's a good question. And if there is a fine for the company, does that then get passed on to the customers? Because we already know our bills are going up next year.
Yeah,
Great, you fine them, but do we end up actually footing that bill?
Yeah.
Or does it actually come out of these ridiculous salaries that the bosses all have?
Well, I just would like to know if they get themselves 160 million quid Ofwat, the regulator, they say, right, we've got 160 million quid. What do you do with that? What do you do? Well, one thing you should be doing with it is bringing it to Lough Neagh in Northern Ireland and cleaning up the fungi mess that is there, because the water companies haven't cleaned up the effluent that's going in.
Or build a reservoir, a new reservoir. Here's a thought.
Yeah.
That would be a good idea.
It would cost more than 160 million quid.
Yeah.
That's why I say, people say record fines, massive fines. They're not massive. You look at, a house price of a superb detached house in London, in Surrey or somewhere like that, would be 5 million, minimum £5 million. This is what, 10 times that, 20 times that? What? It's not, these are not massive fines. What's going to be done with the money? So if you know, let us know. Alex Deacon knows about the weather.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. It's a day of sunshine and showers. Some places won't see too many showers. Others, particularly Western Scotland, we'll see lots of them. That's where the low pressure is. You can see the swirl here. Very wet day, basically, across the Highlands. The closer you are to the low, the more showers you'll see. So they'll be on and off through the day for Northern Ireland, northwest England. Further south, the showers a bit more scattered, so longer, drier spells, particularly this afternoon over the Midlands and Wales. Some decent spells of sunshine here. Not many showers at all across southern and eastern England. Generally a dry day and a fresher feel as well. Could still get to 22, 23. Further north, temperatures mostly in the high teens and feeling cool with a pretty brisk wind. That will chug the showers along quite a bit here across parts of the northwest, whereas further south, well, we might see a shower zipping through, but generally it's a fine day and a fine evening as well. A few more showers across northern England, but even here I suspect by this evening the showers fading, as they should across Northern Ireland. We'll keep the showers going across western Scotland, but again to the east, still some fine weather to be had through the evening time. Plenty of sunshine likely here. Staying fairly blustery and showery across the Northern Isles through this evening. Elsewhere, many places becoming dry with lengthy clear spells, but notice the cloud gathering down to the southwest. It's going to mix things up a little bit for Thursday. The cloud increasing for Wales and southwest England. Things turning a bit damp here by Thursday morning. Quite a warm night as well as that cloud moves in. Temperatures holding up at 14 or 15, 12 to 13 elsewhere. So for tomorrow, perhaps a bright sunny start across eastern Scotland, much of central and eastern England, but a different day for Wales, southwest England. Grey, rain and drizzle on and off, particularly over hills and around coasts. Some of that rain at times coming into Northern Ireland and eventually southern Scotland, but generally a drier day over the Highlands. Again, parts of eastern England staying fine all day, and here the top temperatures of 24 degrees. Bye for now.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Yeah, a bit of levity now. This is some nice action if you can get your hands on it.
Yeah, £30,000 in tax-free cash could be in your bank to play with this year. It's our Great British Giveaway. These are all the details you need to make sure it's yours.
Don't miss out on your chance to win a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. It's extra cash that could really make a difference to your coming year. You could find yourself on that holiday you've always wanted to take, Buy that treat that always seemed out of reach. Or just send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. £30,000 could be yours. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
It's exactly 8:20, and up next we've got Paul Coit, and he's got
the sport.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is a big old headache because we talk a lot about GP appointments, don't we? But certainly almost everyone I know struggles to see a dentist when they need one.
Yes. You know the best time to go to a dentist? When? 2:30. 2:30.
That's actually quite good. It's better than my gags.
The guy that went into Goa, to India, to get his dental treatment, is that what you're talking about?
Well, yeah, so tell us about that. I mean, this is how desperate people are to get treatment now. So what's the story?
OK, the story is a guy couldn't get an appointment at the NHS, so he went all the way to Goa in India to get his dental appointment. Now, I think he probably just wanted to go on holiday, and he thought, I know, why don't I go on holiday to Goa and then get my teeth done? Look, people are travelling in their droves. There's whole aeroplanes full of people with medical tourists. Like in Turkey, you get a whole aeroplane with people with hair implants and things like that. Well,
Yeah, I was going to go to
turkey teeth, isn't it?
Turkey teeth.
Turkey teeth. Well, now we've got
that's when they strip the tooth down and you have these little pegs.
Yes, they strip them down, but in many cases they strip them down far too low, so the nerve is exposed and it gets infected, and it's exposed to the elements. So you get infection in the tooth, and then you have to essentially take them all off. But by then the infection spreads so far. I was getting my nails done the other day, which I don't do very often, and my nail technician said to me, "Is your dad still a dentist?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Please, can I have an emergency appointment?" I went to Turkey and I got my teeth done, and now they look incredible, but I'm in so much pain. They're all infected. She had 15 taken out from the top and 12 from the bottom, and it's an absolute disaster. But this is what people are feeling like they have to do.
So medical tourism doesn't always work.
No, but it shows, doesn't it, Alex, that people can't get their teeth sorted here, so they go elsewhere. Listen, do you floss, by the way?
Don't floss. GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Another British medal. It was the 1500 metres last night at the Olympics. Mr. Paul put you in the picture.
Hoping it was going to be a gold, and a bit of a surprise. I found it really surprising. Josh Kerr against Jakob Ingebrigtsen. This was going to be the big rivalry. This was the big race. The Norwegian against the Brit. Ingebrigtsen, who they've really been bad-mouthing each other as well. You see all that, and I it adds a little bit to the tension and excitement.
It made me a bit more aggy watching it. I was sort of shouting, "Go on,
but
take
I
him."
like that. And the thing is, Josh Kerr, very confident, shall we say. I know we usually like, oh, well, obviously I'll try my best and see what I can do. And he's like, I'm going for gold. I'm going to win gold, and that there's no other option. Well, he did break the British record, which was good, but he ended up second because Ingebrigtsen went so far in front, and we think it's going to be either of those two. Josh Kerr goes past Ingebrigtsen. Well, come on, this is so exciting. Yeah. Exactly. And then, out of the blue, the American Cole Hocker. And there's Hocker. And there's, you can see Josh Kerr just behind. Ingebrigtsen, you can't even see in the picture because he ended up fourth.
But, Coity, I actually didn't even think Josh Kerr had got silver for a moment there because the other American came
that's
in.
right.
It was almost a photo... Well, it was a photo finish. And it was a hair's breadth between silver. He almost didn't even get silver.
It was so close. Josh Kerr seemed very happy with his silver.
Yeah.
I was livid. I'm like, who is this man? Where has he come from? Who is this Cole Hocker? And how comes he's run much faster than he's ever run before? But anyway, there is Josh. He's happy with his silver. He's still got plenty of years left in him and a great future in the British record holder.
No, today is Wednesday. The Olympics finish on
Sunday.
Mm. There's not one of those stupid dance ceremonies on Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
There's no competition.
Tom Cruise apparently is going to be at it.
Well, he's at everything. I don't think he works.
Yeah.
But to tell me, so there's no competition on Sunday?
I don't believe so, no. Usually the last... Often ends with a marathon.
What I'm trying to say is, I mean, Britain wanted to have at least 45 medals or so, and I think we're about 10 off that at the moment.
Sailing, there is today. Mm-hmm. We've got the skateboarding as well. With our friend Andy McDonald, he goes in that. See, the thing is, Australia pulled ahead of us, and there's now a couple of golds between us and them. France just won. I mean, if we can get into that top 3 or 4, it's got Germany nowhere to be seen, which is a bit of a surprise usually, isn't it? But France have had a great Olympics so far, but usually the host nation does. But there we are. That's how things look at the moment. I do want to mention, do you remember, I'm going to go back in history a little bit, and it's often talk about, there's always some sort of cheat row, and of course we've had it with boxing, but the greatest cheat I ever remember from I don't know why I enjoy the cheats more than anything else. The 1976 Olympics, it was the modern pentathlon. Do you remember Boris Onachenko? I think Eamonn is more likely to remember it than you, is he?
A swordsman.
That's right.
Yeah.
Ooh. It was in the modern pentathlon, and he was, and so the events in the modern pentathlon, there's running, it's the bizarre one, show jumping in there as well. Shooting is there. It was like a lot of old army would often be very good at the modern pentathlon. They don't do it anymore. So anyway, when it came to the fencing, there's Boris Onachenko for the Soviet Union. He'd won the World Championship before, but never won an Olympic gold medal. So he's fighting Jim Fox, or fencing Jim Fox with the épée. So they're doing, and you know how it would buzz if you touch the area on the tummy, it would make a buzz and it would light up. So they did that in 76, but there was a wire. So anyway, they're fighting, buzz, Onachenko, another point to him. Buzz, another point to Onachenko. So Jim Fox has said, hold on, now look, in there, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but I'll explain what's gone on inside that sword, inside the épée. So Onachenko had a button fitted to it. I mean, it's genius, it really is. So every time he got close, he was hitting this button, and it was firing off. So he'd even had it attached to the scoreboard system. So firstly, Jim Fox is saying, look, this is not fair. For some reason, it's going off when it's not near me. They looked at the sword and said, yeah, it's not functioning. So then they said, well, actually, could you have a closer look? And inside, there it was. There was the button.
Did he get sent to jail?
I don't think
that is just
No, I think
criminal.
he was lauded in the Soviet Union as a hero after that. But no, he was certainly stripped then, and they weren't allowed to compete anymore. Britain went on to win the game. There we are. That was the book, The Greatest Olympic Cheat, Boris Onachenko. But you know what? You've got to give it to him, haven't you?
Yeah, that's a book there, is it?
If you are going to cheat...
So he made money out of it.
That's the way to do it. I don't think Boris is with us anymore. If he is, sorry, Boris.
OK.
But...
thank you, my friend. Thank you very much. That's if you learn something new every day. Still to come, the Shadow Minister for Crime and Policing, probably going to arrest Paul Coit, but his name's Matt Vickers, and we're going to be talking to him next here on the show.
The latest GB News travel. Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M80 in North Lanarkshire, there are northbound delays after a van broke down between junctions 4 and 5 from the M73 to Cumbernauld. In Derbyshire on the A50, there's a lane closed eastbound after an accident between junctions 4 and 3 south of Derby, causing delays. In the West Midlands, the A457 is closed each way along Albury Road at Smethwick after an accident with delays as you divert. London Overground services are suspended between Romford and Upminster because of an obstruction on the line. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking nearly half an hour in westbound queues approaching the M25 because of the roadworks there. In Hampshire, the A36 remains closed northbound off the West Swallow Services roundabout hour for emergency repairs, and in West Sussex, the A259 is partly blocked westbound by an accident near to the junction with Eldon Way in Littlehampton, causing delays. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Arlene Foster on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Just some breaking news to bring you. We're just hearing in the last few moments that a hotel has collapsed in Germany on the River Moselle. And we understand that one person's died, and 8 people are trapped. Emergency services are on the scene, and we're just keeping a close eye on that for you. But just wanted to update you on that breaking news this morning.
Yeah, we've got pictures on the website. The Shadow Minister for State for Crime, Policing and Fire, Matt Vickers, joins us now. Matt, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Big day today, worrying day today. So many of these gatherings all over the country, and a lot of people with everything crossed that nothing goes wrong.
Yeah, hugely concerning. When you see some of the things that have gone on across the country in the last fortnight, it has been horrendous. The scars left on communities, people scared to leave their homes, people who've had their homes damaged, people who've been assaulted, police officers who've been assaulted. You know, for young people growing up in some of those estates where they opened their windows to see, you know, cars torched in the middle of the street, it's been absolutely horrendous. These people, you know, well, there are people out there, you are allowed to have concerns about immigration. You're allowed to have concerns about things that might be happening to your place of worship. But that does not give you license to go out with a knife. It does not give you license to go out there and torch people's homes, to assault police officers, to assault other members of the public. Absolutely horrendous scenes.
Have any concerns about the way the government is itself policing all of this?
I think, do you know what? We need the government to succeed. We need to, you know, it's not in your position, it's not about just throwing things at them and telling them they're wrong and everything. We actually need them to succeed, and we need them to draw this to a close as quickly as possible. I think already people have expressed concerns about the fact that it took a week for Keir Starmer to get that Cobra meeting together. Cobra meeting being very important. It brings the agencies together. It allows them to look at where that mutual aid might go on and where we might be able to take police from one force to another to try and bring to try and ensure that these things are operated safely. Concerns about that, but you know what? I'm glad that there's been 400 arrests. I'm glad that the courts are sitting around the clock and dealing with these people as quickly as possible, because the only way we're going to draw it to a close is if there is real tough justice as quickly as possible. People see the sanctions that others are facing and therefore don't go out and do these vile, disgusting things.
Except, Matt Vickers, it's really laid bare, hasn't it, the absolute mess that the outgoing Conservatives have left the justice system in, the slow pace of processing cases, the lack of spaces in the prisons is a huge problem now that there is nowhere to put anybody, and they're having to release prisoners in order to make space for this current crisis. And we've got lots of lawyers saying that they're working around the clock and stretched beyond belief. Do you bear responsibility for that, accept responsibility for a lot of that?
I'd completely disagree with that characterisation. Actually, we put more police on the streets. There are now more police on the streets than ever before. And when it comes to incidents like this, actually, we changed the law, whether that be with the police court, with the police crime sentencing in Quartz bill, where we put in tougher sanctions for some of the people who are involved in this, some of those people who assault our emergency service workers, and Labour voted it down. They opposed those powers for the police, or whether it be in that public order bill where we gave the police greater powers to take action on these people, to undertake stop and search and hold these people to account. I think those things were the right things to do. I think it was right that we moved it forward. I think now the police are benefiting from having those powers, and long may it continue.
No, but
we now need
me.
to see action, and
I
we
was
need to see
asking about the states of the court system, the judicial system, and the fact that you haven't got a grip of that whilst you've been in power, and also the lack of spaces within our prisons. There aren't even the prison staff to man them, and you've left the new government 4 weeks into their job in a very difficult and precarious situation, haven't you?
Well, do you know what? You would never see people being arrested on the scale they are going to be in the next few days and weeks. That, of course, is going to apply pressure to the court system. Of course, it's going to apply pressure to prison places. But actually, the last government had the biggest prison building programme since the Victorian era. There were more prison places being built than there had been in decades and decades and decades. Actually, that's what we need to do. We now need to carry on with that, not loosen up on the sanctions for these things, toughen up on them, see people bear the consequences and get on with it.
Do you think civil arrest should be described as a terror offence, or do you think that, as the government's independent advisor said, it risks being escalatory?
So I don't think it's for politicians to decide such things. I think the right people to decide that is the CPS, with all of the details in front of them. We've created, Parliament has created the law, it's created the rules, it's created the legislation. When those people left their homes going to do what they were going to do and made the decision to do it, they can have a look at the law, they can see what the consequences are going to be. And that's right, we don't change the law retrospectively. It's for the CPS to look at what's happened, look at all the facts, and make sure those people feel the full force of the law and the consequences for what they have done.
What about Elon Musk? What do you think of him?
So I think, well, I wouldn't really want to get into the tit for tat between Keir and Elon, but I think that social media operators have to take responsibility for some of the things that are going on. Do you know what? If you allow people to spread misinformation on the scale it's being spread, that has real consequences. We saw the online safety bill come forward. One of the problems with social media is that it moves so fast. Technology moves so fast. But we saw the online safety bill come forward, creating that precedent that these operators will be held to account for what goes on. They do have responsibility to make sure that misinformation's controlled, is prevented. And actually, do you know what? These tech firms will find a way to come and get you should you infringe on copyright using music. You know, if you produce a video with music that is copyright, they'll use the tools they've got to find that out and hold you to account. Actually, they need to have the same outlook on people who spread information, on the same outlook on people who use social media to commit crime. And now in the aftermath of all this, these communities are panic-stricken, are stressed, are completely tense on what's going on. We had an incident in my part of the world yesterday whereby there was a dispute in a job centre car park next to a Sikh temple. By the time it got to social media and felt the force of social media, people thought there was riots going on down there. Social media has a big part to play, but it can also be like Chinese whispers. We know that, what is it they say? They say, you know, that a lie can get around the world by the time the truth has got its shoes on. Social media needs to be dealt with. These operators need to take responsibility and play their part. The last Home Secretary, the now Shadow Home Secretary, met with tech firms earlier this year, had those conversations to push that forwards. We've now seen the current Home Secretary seems to have handed that over to the Department of Culture, Media and Sport. I don't think it belongs there. I think it's something that has a real role in our safety on the streets of the UK. And I think it's something the Home Secretary should be engaging in and getting onto those operators and those people.
Some interesting points there, Matt Vickers. Appreciate your time this morning. Matt Vickers is the Shadow Minister for Crime, Policing and Fire. Thank you very much indeed. Claire Muldoon and Scarlett Maguire listening to that with us. Scarlett, what do you think of what the Shadow Minister was saying?
I agree with him that we need what Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper are doing, and the police. We need it to succeed. I mean, I think that he's absolutely right that we want these riots to stop. He's also absolutely right about social media and how frightening it is, and that example of the car park, you know, a dispute in the car park, and suddenly it's about a Sikh temple being attacked when it's got nothing to do with it.
What about Elon Musk's role in all of this? I mean, he is the owner of X.
Well, I mean, he encourages Tommy Robinson. Right, and Tommy Robinson is unashamedly anti-Muslim, unashamedly.
He gave Tommy Robinson his account back.
He gave him the account back.
Get into America, but
I know he gave his account back and then retweets him, and then there he is saying, you know, there's going to be civil war in Britain. I mean, Elon Musk is part of the problem, and that's what's so terrible.
Why do you think the Shadow Minister didn't want to talk about Elon Musk? He's happy to talk about the role of social media and all of this, but, you know, is it perhaps because his, you know, previous boss, Rishi Sunak, was falling over himself to be cozying up to Elon Musk, and they don't want to criticise him, almost afraid of this unaccountable?
Musk is a massive disruptor, and he's a massive player in this game, whether we want to think it or not. And the fact he gave Tommy Robinson his account back on X, I think is a positive thing, only because I'd far rather see what we were dealing with, unashamed as he is with his vitriolic, abhorrent views. I would rather be able to see it than think, oh, what is he doing? Because it's all been pushed underground. And I think that is one of the problems. We are told often in this country, we can't do this, we can't do that, we have to do this, we have to do that. We're actually now being arrested for what we think.
I have to go to the break right now, but when I do, you'll be first. We'll go to. Thank you very much indeed, Scarlett and Claire. Back with them. More from them right after this.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday from 8 p.m.
The court on Wednesday ruled that a teenager was wrongly ignored before being forced into end-of-life care. Sudiksha Thirumalesh, who was 19, died last year after being prevented from travelling abroad for treatment after doctors said her condition was incurable. Doctors said Ms. Thirumalesh's objection to their decision was unreasonable and that she should have all life-sustaining treatment ended and be put on a palliative care pathway. Last August, a ruling said that the teenager lacked mental capacity to make her own decisions, but 3 judges in the Court of Appeal overturned that decision last week. Lawyers said the move reaffirms the right of patients to disagree with their doctors. The teenager remained fully conscious while being treated by the University Hospital's Birmingham NHS Foundation Trust. Well, to discuss this tragic case, Sudiksha's father, Thirumalesh, and brother, Varshan, join me now. Thank you so much for joining me in these desperately sad circumstances. This is very important for other people who may find themselves in a similar position, that they will be able to make decisions about their own care with the support of their families, rather than there's sometimes arrogance of the medical profession who think that they know best. So you must be, I hope, very reassured by this judgment that Sutik Shah has achieved something for other people.
Yes, definitely, because this arrogance transformed into cruelty towards my sister's care and ill treatment of the whole family. They think they are on the top of the hierarchical spectrum, and they treated us like we were on the bottom of the lower end of the chains, or rather as low class, but we ensured that our class remained.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes,
she could have said stump. You made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Amongst all the darkness, Scarlett Maguire believes there is some light, some inspiration amongst these riots over the past week.
So the oldest mosque in Britain, in Liverpool, decided to do something different, and they cooked up masses and masses of hamburgers and chips, and they knew that there were going to be people outside, not rioting, but certainly picketing them. And when it was reasonably calm, they went out and they gave the people the hamburgers and started talking to them. And actually, there are pictures of them shaking hands with each other. And the Imam said they have things to say. We listened, and we've agreed that once all this rioting is over, that they will come into the mosque and we'll have a discussion.
Gosh.
And you just think that actually, that because the problem is that it does seem to be very, very anti-Muslim, and what you want is that sort of debate where people are listening to each other. And I just wish it would happen more.
Yeah.
OK. Claire, let's talk about more NHS disruption. And this comes from the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, doesn't it? And what's he saying?
He's saying that the NHS should turn away racist patients. And there's an article here in the Times that says that that Muslim GPs are frightened now of going to do home visits. I don't know any GP that does a home visit at the moment, so I'm not sure if this is actually made-up rhetoric to push the other narrative that, again, it's something that we're told we cannot be. Every decent human being knows not to be racist. Every decent human being knows not to riot. So why are they targeting? Why are they saying to everyone, if you are racist? I mean, what is the benchmark here of being racist? How will they know then that your GP will not treat you? We're told...
Well, I mean, if they're openly abusive to their face, for instance.
But that could be because they're rubbish at their job, or that could be because they are... I'm not saying they should be doing it, Isabel. There's signs up everywhere saying treatment of our staff are at the utmost. You can see it in banks as well. We will not tolerate anyone being violently abusive, verbally or physically, to our staff. That surely should be it. Why do we need to have headlines? Why do we need to have column inches on the GP will not...
There's a lot of people saying there are race riots going on in this country at the moment, and people who are not just Muslims, but a lot of black people. We had Chris Akabusi on this programme
on Monday,
saying that he's frightened at the moment and a heightened sense of fear, didn't want to catch the train in to join us in the studio. People, are they not legitimate to be feeling concerned at the moment?
I think everyone's got a legitimate concern, but back to 1981, when Lord Scarman wrote his report, it was published that we should change the narrative from race relations to community relations, and that's exactly what that Imam did at the mosque that you were talking about, and that's what we should be focusing on. We shouldn't be focusing on what we shouldn't be doing, what we can't be doing, instead of what we should be doing, not what we shouldn't.
All Wes Streeting is saying is that if you're abused, you don't have to treat the patient. And I mean, and actually, we should not have people abusing doctors for whatever reason. I mean, not just because of race. So that's what it is. I mean, but
why did he have to come out and say, don't be racist? Surely you shouldn't be racist. If you're wanting a service that you pay for through the NHS, because the NHS is not a free service, it is free at the point of entry to it, you have to be treated. That's the fundamental right of the doctor.
OK. Things you shouldn't do, including, Scarlett, being in your kitchen and polishing your quartz worktop.
Right. No, actually, this is a slight scare story. Is that for people who have quartz worktops, they are safe. What the problem is the people who are manufacturing these worktops, who are you know.
Cutting them, carving them.
Is that there is a problem. There can be a problem with your lungs, and in Australia they've banned them. They've banned working on them, not from having them in your home, but from doing it, because even in Britain, I mean, 11 people are sick. One person has died of it,
and it causes an incurable form of cancer. This dust.
Yeah, I mean, it's like asbestos. Yeah. I mean, it's. I was listening to something on the radio about talcum powder and how that causes it, and actually, we just have to be more careful. But I mean, everybody with quartz worktops in their kitchens do not have to worry. It's the workers we have to worry about.
You get a good price if you go to resell them, though. have to be said. When I think of the quartz, I've agonised over the years. So. And for fireplaces as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Goodness me.
It's apparently better to use and easier to cut than marble and than granite. The other sort of.
What was the other one? Corian. That's another.
Yeah, and more affordable, I think. But not great for those that have to do the work, clearly. Right, Claire, what's Adam Peaty been saying about the food that they've been served in the Olympics? You know, you'd think they're in Paris, they'd be getting the best food in the world.
But they're not. It's not even ratatouille. Adam Peaty is going out with one of our best chefs' daughters, of course, and he has said that he loves fish, and there was hardly any protein there. The fish that he had worms in it. I mean, it's just disgusting.
Get worms in fish.
No. British Olympic chiefs had to ship in an extra chef. Such was the demand for their food at the Paris HQ. Peaty said the Games is... Now, get this, right? This is the bit that really got me and was difficult to swallow, pun intended, was their green pledge to make, wait for it, 60% of the meals were to be served meatless and a third plant-based. These are elite Olympians. They rely on the protein. These lads, as Adam says, I want meat. Give him meat. It's almost the end of the Olympics. Let's get going and let's feed them properly.
But actually, they've been complaining about the food all the way through. I mean, which, you're right, one would think Paris, great food. Yeah. Not at all. I mean, and the whole, everything about the way the athletes' village seems to be really, really rubbish.
Do you think, I mean, it's too early probably to have this conversation, it finishes on Sunday, but do you think overall they've been a success? I mean, after the damp squib of the opening ceremony,
the opening ceremony was appalling.
The lack of ticket sales. Yeah. You know, the food. Yep. What do you think? Has it been a good Olympics?
No, it's been a good Olympics for Britain. We're number 5 on the medal charts, which is great. Shows that a lot of Olympic lottery funding has gone to good causes. But in terms of, as a viewer, not so much, I'm afraid.
OK. If I was to raise a glass to the Olympics or anything else, and I raised a glass of wine, how should I be doing it, Scarlett?
Well, so the Daily Star says that most of us are wine plonkers, because when you should not be filling your wine glass up to the top. Is that if you've got red, it should be a third to leave it to aerate, and if you've got white, it's about a half. And then, terrible, people don't know the difference between cheap and expensive wine when they taste it. Well, I mean, I think that shows that sometimes expensive wine just costs a lot of money. When I was on holiday, where I've just come back from in Italy, you could get a box of white 5 litres for €13, right? And you could not tell the difference between that and a perfectly good bottle.
Or you convinced yourself you couldn't tell the difference.
Well,
especially after a couple.
I know.
Yeah. But I think that is the biggest factor which people judge wine, the price.
The price.
The price at the end of the day. People just want to forget for a while, take 2 or 3 glasses or whatever they do. But the idea that, I mean, I wouldn't be any sort of wine snob.
You don't drink, though.
But I do drink. I can appreciate. I don't drink. I can appreciate drinking. I've worked in bars for many years and things, and I know what I'm talking about there. But I don't appreciate it to the degree that I would spend a load of money on it or not. You know.
Yeah. Also, in Croatia, where we've just been on holiday, it was so hot. It was 39 degrees. That if they put more than a third of a glass in the glass, it got warm. And then I was saying, please, can I have some ice? And then I was getting stares of like, oh, you Philistines. But I was like, I need ice in my wine. It's too hot.
Yeah.
Oh, the trials and tribulations.
Yeah, so there we go. Guys, thank you very much indeed. We raise a glass to you too. Thank you very much indeed. Much apprecited. We're going to go out and about. We're going to find out what it's doing out there. Alex Deakin is the man with his finger on the pulse.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. It's a day of sunshine and showers. Some places won't see too many showers. Others, particularly Western Scotland, we'll see lots of them. That's where the low pressure is. You can see the swirl here. Very wet day, basically, across the Highlands. The closer you are to the low, the more showers you'll see. So they'll be on and off through the day for Northern Ireland, northwest England. Further south, the showers a bit more scattered, so longer, drier spells, particularly this afternoon over the Midlands and Wales. Some decent spells of sunshine here. Not many showers at all across southern and eastern England. Generally a dry day and a fresher feel as well. Could still get to 22, 23. Further north, temperatures mostly in the high teens. And feeling cool with a pretty brisk wind. That will chug the showers along quite a bit here across parts of the northwest, whereas further south, well, we might see a shower zipping through, but generally it's a fine day and a fine evening as well. A few more showers across northern England, but even here I suspect by this evening the showers fading, as they should across Northern Ireland. We'll keep the showers going across western Scotland, but again to the east, still some fine weather to be had through the evening time. Plenty of sunshine likely here. Staying fairly blustery and showery across the Northern Isles through this evening. Elsewhere, many places becoming dry with lengthy clear spells, but notice the cloud gathering down to the southwest. It's going to mix things up a little bit for Thursday. The cloud increasing for Wales and southwest England. Things turning a bit damp here by Thursday morning. Quite a warm night as well as that cloud moves in. Temperatures holding up at 14 or 15, 12 to 13 elsewhere. So for tomorrow, perhaps a bright sunny start across eastern Scotland, much of central and eastern England, but a different day for Wales, southwest England, grey, rain and drizzle on and off, particularly over hills and around coasts. Some of that rain at times coming into Northern Ireland and eventually southern Scotland, but generally a drier day over the Highlands. Again, parts of eastern England staying fine all day, and here the top temperatures of 24 degrees. Bye for now.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M1 in Northern Ireland, there's a lane closed towards Belfast just after junction 6 at Lisbon after an accident with queues from junction 7 south of Lisbon. On the M62 in West Yorkshire, the westbound exit at junction 29 for the southbound M1 at the Lofthouse interchange is closed where cars overturned with a spillage. There are queues from junction 30 at Rothwell. In Derbyshire, the A50 is partly blocked eastbound by an accident between junctions 4 and 3 south of Derby, causing delays. In Cheshire, the A523 is closed each way along Roy Chadwick Way between Adlington and Woodford after an accident. In the West Midlands, the A457 is closed each way along Albury Road at Smethwick after an accident, with delays as you divert. And on the M26 in Kent, it's taking around 20 minutes again this morning. And westbound queues approaching the M25 because of lane closures for roadworks.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Don't miss out on your chance to win a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. It's extra cash that could really make a difference to your coming year. You could find yourself on that holiday you've always wanted to take, buy that treat that always seemed out of reach, Or just send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. £30,000 could be yours. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled.
Lovely. Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Britain on a knife edge with 6,000 police officers on standby as the nation braces for possibly up to 30 demonstrations at immigration centres today.
Well, last night there was an emergency COBRA meeting in Downing Street. The top prosecutor in the country is now warning rioters could be charged with terror offences.
You are likely to be dealt with within a week, and that nobody should be involving themselves in this disorder.
Almost 10 days since those shocking stabbings in Southport that killed 3 little girls, and an official inquest has been announced as the victims' families search for justice.
Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, that's the official Democratic ticket ahead of the election in November, as the former teacher and Minnesota governor hopes to waltz his way to the White House.
Welcome the next Vice President of the United States, Tim Walz.
Water companies could finally be held to task for historic sewage spills as Thames, Yorkshire and Northumbrian Water faced eye-watering fines of a combined £168 million.
It's a sunshine and showers day, but the emphasis definitely on the sunshine across the south and the east. The emphasis definitely on the showers for the north and west. Join me later for a full forecast.
Just after 9 o'clock, a very good morning to you on this Wednesday morning. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster and this is GB News Breakfast.
So today, 6,000 police officers have been formed around the country. They've been mobilised ahead of planned anti-immigration gatherings.
Well, already more than 400 people have been arrested, 100 charged, and one of those has been convicted following unrest in 24 cities.
Speaking after that emergency COBRA meeting yesterday evening, the Prime Minister pledged rioters will feel the full force of the law.
I made it very clear on a number of occasions that those involved will feel the full force of the law. So we coordinated, we went through some of the numbers. Over 400 people now have been arrested. 100 have been charged, some in relation to online activity, and a number of them are already in court. And I'm now expecting substantive sentencing before the end of this week.
Well, speaking exclusively on GB News last night, the former Home Secretary Priti Patel and potential future Tory leader called for more accountability from the government.
This is why we have to have the questions, the scrutiny to the Home Secretary and to Keir Starmer, because actually the police need to have the tools, the equipment, the backing to police in the right way across all protests. Doesn't matter who, but literally all the protests where we're seeing thuggery, violence, criminality. Everyone that's involved in that, these protests should be policed. I've seen footage on television, I'm sure you have as well. I saw some on social media last night from one part of the country where I saw no police. I want to know why that was. Why was there no police presence?
Right, let's go to our man Adam Cherry. He's across all of this because today it could be a tinderbox type day, Adam.
Yeah, that's right, Eamonn. So as we saw, the Prime Minister holding the second emergency Cobra meeting in as many days last night and saying that 400 people have been arrested so far. We're expecting more unrest today, perhaps up to 30 protests across the country, including in the capital, and the Metropolitan Police have released a statement saying they are expecting that and are preparing for it. 6,000 riot police across the country deployed as well to deal with this. Now, as we saw in that clip with Priti Patel, the political debate here is on two-tier policing. Now, this is the claim that the police deal with the far-right riots in a strong and robust way, and perhaps are less comfortable doing that with sectarian gangs. That's the claim, anyway. Again, we're seeing the likes of Priti Patel and Robert Jenrick, another Tory leadership hopeful, making a similar claim. Jenrick caveating that somewhat by saying, actually, this is two-tier governing. So it's really a problem for the Prime Minister and Yvette Cooper and their rhetoric rather than necessarily the police themselves. So that's the political context for this as we stand. But you're right, Eamonn, as we say, the next 24 hours will maybe at least very serious.
Adam, what about this perhaps unexpected alliance between Elon Musk, the CEO of X, and Tommy Robinson, retweeting a lot of his material and launching lots of strong criticism of the Prime Minister?
So Elon Musk allowed Tommy Robinson back on the Twitter or X platform, and there's a debate there that has that in some way allowed disinformation to spread more quickly. Of course, the principle of Elon Musk's ownership of X or Twitter is that free speech is the main function of the website, and so regardless of personal politics, those characters should be allowed on it. In terms of what Musk has said about Keir Starmer and this government specifically, he's retweeted two-tier Keir, of course, in reference to the policing debate we just discussed, compared Britain to the Soviet Union, and said that Britain is inevitably heading towards civil war. So really caustic stuff. Downing Street pushing back on a lot of this in a press briefing earlier this week, saying, of course, they reject the characterisation that the country is heading for civil war, rejecting the claim that we have two-tier policing. But nonetheless, Musk sustaining these attacks in just the last 24 hours.
OK, Adam, leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. We're now going to Jack Carson, and Jack is in the West Midlands for us today. Good morning, Jack. What have you got to add to today's events?
Well, of course, we're here just outside Southport, where the inquests are going to be opened today, of course, into the tragic deaths of 6-year-old Bebby King, Alice De Silva Aguiar, of course, who was 9 years old, and Elsie Dot Stankham, who was 7-year-olds, who, of course, died after that stabbing at the Taylor Swift dance class, last week. And we've been here, within the community over the past few days, over the past few weeks. We've seen such an outpouring of grief from this community, and the community trying to come together to support each other through this. Throughout the past week, we've seen, numerous vigils held towards the girls as well. Particularly last night, there was a vigil for Alice De Silva Aguiar as well, who was the 9-year-old that died in that incident. On Monday, we also saw a bubble vigil where members of the community came together to blow bubbles towards the sky. So the inquest officially opens today. This is only the opening of an inquest, but it's likely to be adjourned until a later date. But of course, the coroner will officially confirm, hopefully, the causes of death, and also allow the bodies to be released, essentially. This is very much one of those formal proceedings within an incident after some kind of horrific case like this, that this is very much a formality, because we know that one of the funerals is scheduled to be on Sunday, this Sunday. So this formal opening of the inquest is very much the formalities that have to take place in order for those bodies to be released, and so that funerals can then be arranged. The reason very much that it will also be postponed until a later date after those initial comments from the coroner today will be so that the police and paramedics and anyone else who attended, of course, the scene on the day of that horrific case can come to be able to form statements and finish their own internal investigations. Of course, we know that the Merseyside police have been supporting the families over the past 10 days, of course, since that incident, with specialist officers as well. We've heard, of course, the tributes to the girls from the family. In a statement, Bebe's family said at the time that no words can describe the devastation that has hit their family, trying to deal with, they say, the loss of their little girl. And Alice's family said that they wanted to make sure that she could keep smiling and dancing. They called her Princess, and they wanted to give their love, of course, from their hero, Daddy and Mummy. So very much it will be a very tough day for the families today at the opening of this inquest, but of course it's part of the formality that has to take place so those funerals can be arranged for those three girls.
Yeah, and our thoughts are with them all. Jack Carson, thanks very much indeed.
Water companies are facing a combined record fine of 168 million after a series of controversies, including sewage spills.
Yes, Thames Water, the worst offender, Northumbrian and Yorkshire Water all issued the penalty by the regulator Ofwat. Thames is facing the biggest fine of £104 million.
Founder of Waterways Protection. We welcome into the studio Philip Greenwood on this. Philip, the first thing, we were talking about this earlier, the fine that's related to this 160 million, what happens to that money?
Well, first of all, let's just get one thing straight. There's no fine that's been issued. There's been a proposal of a fine, OK? So...
That's not the way it's been reported.
Well, actually, if you go into the minutiae and the fine detail of the... I was reading the BBC, and even the BBC are reporting it as a fine. No. If you go into the minutiae, it's a proposal of a fine for 104 million for Thames, 16 for Northumbrian, and like 47 for Yorkshire Water. So it's a proposal for a fine. And actually, and the water companies have said, or Thames Water have said, they will respond in due course. They will respond in due course.
So they can say, for instance, well, that's all very well and good, but we can't afford to pay this, so let's forget it.
Well, it's actually, they don't need to say that because the government's kind of already said that for them. They've said, OK, well, this will be the fine. However, if you present different plans, counter plans, there's ways that we can work with that, yeah? So what we're doing is we're just generating headlines now. What we're talking about, this fine, that fine, everybody thinks the water company's been fined.
Why, my friend, is the government continually, and it's now two different governments we've got here, continually soft, continually quite kind to the water companies? Why?
Well, you'd have to speak to the people in Whitehall who control the country, the civil service, for example. They're the ones that really, aren't... Governments aren't being tough on them, and the people in Whitehall are really just completely captured by the corporation that rule the entire show. So, at the end of the day, we've got problems with the Environment Agency. The Environment Agency sitting on information. For example, there's many people at the Environment Agencies with conflicts of interest, OK? They have interest in the water companies, and we have tried to get the information out, do a Freedom of Information request to say, look, who at the Environment Agency has interest in these corporate structures that own the water companies? The Environment Agency are sitting on that information. They refuse to release it.
It absolutely blew my mind, and we talked about it quite a lot on this programme. Until 4 weeks ago, the Environment Secretary, Steve Barclay, was married to one of the directors at a water company. And you just think, is there not a conflict of interest there when one of the biggest briefs that he's dealing with is our waterways? But let's give the benefit of the doubt and assume that this fine does come to bear. It's almost the maximum penalty that Thames Water has been given. 10% of turnover is the maximum. Right. This amounts to 9%. So, it's sending a strong message that you've got to sort out your ways. We're coming for you, doesn't it?
No, not really. I mean, look at it this way, yeah? If you're a water company, if you're Thames Water and you're taking $2 billion a year in, in fees, and you know that to repair the problem is going to cost you, 30-40% of turnover, or you can pay a fine to the government and Whitehall for 10%. You might think, let's just pay the fine. And actually, the fine's never going to be 10%. It's only going to be 7 or 6. And actually, the fine of the 7 or 6% is probably never actually going to be paid. And whatever the water company do pay, then the different government agencies will give back to the water companies for other initiatives. So they're just passing the same money around each other.
When are these people going to take their responsibilities seriously, if not through these fines? I mean, I'm thinking, and I'm quite incensed by this, the biggest freshwater lake in Europe is in Northern Ireland, Loch Ness. It's a massive green sludge that the water company hasn't bothered cleaning up or doing anything about. Silage spill off, etc., etc.
Well, look, people need to care more, and that means you at home. You actually need to care more. What were happening in the country, I mean, it's not just, the rivers. It's things like lakes in national parks, even ponds, for heaven's sake. There's been incidents, even ponds, water companies have fined. There's 10,000 illegal sewage pipes. Forget about the sewage pipes that we know about. 10,000 illegal sewage pipes, pumping it even into national parks. So what needs to change is, we need to care more, and we need to hold the government to account, and we need to really hold them to account, because the technology, I mean, in Sweden, let's look at the Swedish model. They had this problem, they have their municipalities that deal with it. And they had the problem that we had, not to the same extent, obviously. But what they did is they introduced a sewage tax, and they made it so expensive to pollute that the sewage tax made it unprofitable to commit sewage. So if we're just going to be enslaved to neoliberal ideology and we can't do anything about it, fine. But then we need to play them at their own game.
What about renationalising the water companies? That's often suggested as a solution to this. Do you think that would improve things, or would they actually be taking on a lot of the debt? And then it's passed on to taxpayers as well?
Look, the debt that's owned by the renationalisation is an option, but what you've got to remember is renationalisation is really just going to be a vehicle just to take money from the state to fund the corporations. Now, what happens is if we can renationalise and permanently renationalise, fine. But probably what we're going to do, and it's already been set up, is we're going to do a temporary renationalisation, more government bailout, more money, and then we're going to hand everything back to them, and the show will continue. What I've said that needs to happen is we need to legally ring-fence all of our bill payers' money that comes in, and we need to say that money is only used for infrastructure problems, only used to fix all the things that need.
So to get cleaner, we've got to get tougher, first of all. Thank you very much indeed, Philip. Philip, you must come back and talk to us again sometime. Because
it's been my pleasure.
But this problem, it just goes on, and no one seems to do anything about it. There is increasing awareness, I think, from the general public on this as to the disgrace all of this is. But again, nothing seems to move on.
And let us know at home as well, what do you think of the Swedish solution in all of this? Should we be taxing them for pumping sewage into our waterways? Sounds like a good solution to me. Why not? Better than taxing education. Hey, here's a thought. Listen, gbnews.com/your say. Let us know what you think.
Here's our great British giveaway, £30,000, and it could be yours.
Don't miss out on your chance to win a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. It's extra cash that could really make a difference to your coming year. You could find yourself on that holiday you've always wanted to take, buy that treat that always seemed out of reach, or just send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. £30,000 could be yours. For another chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
We do wish you the very, very best, because that's life-changing, that sort of money.
That definitely cheers you up. Bev and Andrew are going to cheer us up. They're here from 9:30 for Britain's Newsroom. They're going to give a little taster of what's in store just after this.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
The Duke and Duchess of Sussex have announced a tour to Colombia at the invitation of Vice President Francia Marquez. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are expected to highlight the threat posed to children by the internet. Why they have to go to Colombia to do that, I'm not entirely sure. However, this is literally within a week of saying that Harry saying he can't come to London. He doesn't feel it's safe to bring his wife, Meghan, to London because he fears for her personal safety. And Colombia, to my reckoning, is one of those countries where the government advise you not to even go. In any case, joining me now is royal broadcaster and commentator Rafe Hedder-Mancu to explain what's going on here. Rafe, hello, lovely to see you.
Hello, lovely as always. A bit of comic relief here. Yes, so you're quite right. Literally just days after Prince Harry declared that he couldn't bring his wife to Britain because of the potential risk of an acid attack or knife attack, they've now announced that they're going to go to Colombia, one of the world's 10 most dangerous countries.
Right.
A nation riven with political assassinations, with murder, with kidnappings and gun crime. I mean, the hypocrisy is mind-boggling. And it just comes a few months after they went on another trip to Nigeria, another world leader in murder and political kidnappings. Now, look, no one is saying that they're going to be putting themselves into harm's way. They're going there at the invitation of this radically left-wing government. And, of course, we've had successful royal tours of Colombia in the past. Just last year, Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, went to Colombia. 10 years ago, our current King and Queen also had a successful trip to Colombia. But that's rather the point. If members of the royal family are able to go to the world's most dangerous nations, the idea that they can't come to the UK because it's too dangerous is simply absurd.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Up next here in GB News, we've got Andrew Pearce and Beverly Turner with all the issues of the day. And it's dominated, I suppose, still by the amount of these gatherings there's going to be around the country today.
Well, that Home Office document suggesting 36 potentially, and Starmer saying he's got a crack team of 6,000 police officers. But actually, this isn't a new thing. It's the same police that have always been around to handle this sort of thing. So we mustn't let people get the idea that this is some new specialist force. But and the fight continues with Elon Musk, of course.
Yeah.
Who rather, I think, revels in it, actually.
Oh, I think he's enjoying it. He's having a good time. But it's sort of a funny one, this whole Elon Musk development. I mean, don't forget, was a big Barack Obama backer back in the day. Now he's all MAGA, isn't he, with his $45 million a month or something?
Yeah. He's interviewing Trump next week on X.
Well, he's all about free speech. He's all about free speech, and he sees that Trump supports that particular ambition, and he sees the Democrats, and in this country, I would argue also the Labour government, as not supporting that.
And he gave Tommy Robinson back, of course, his account, been retweeting all of his Tommy Robinson
Quite right too. He gave back all sorts of controversial people, not just Tommy Robinson. So, and if we want to live in a world where people are free to say what they think, and then we allow the people who carry out the actions, which get linked to let them take responsibility for their actions.
But is Elon Musk not one of them?
What do you mean?
Well, posting inflammatory content, arguably.
Well,
given that he is a CEO of a
you should be allowed to say, I think England is going to, UK is going to descend into civil war. He's allowed to say that. It doesn't mean he's right. It doesn't mean that people are going to be sat at home having a biscuit and go, oh yeah, good point, and go out with a pitchfork. Like, you should be allowed to say things, even if it causes controversy. That's the world.
I mean, I don't take it terribly seriously what he says. He doesn't know. He doesn't know this country.
No, he doesn't.
That's the point.
That is the point.
But we're also talking, because I think this is quite an important point, because how is this all impacting children? Look, this all began with the murder of 3 little girls, the opening of their inquest today. We're talking to a psychologist about the things that kids are going through now. The riots, they're worrying about them. Are they going to affect their homes? They've seen the war in Ukraine. How does that affect them? COVID. It's one thing after another for kids, isn't it?
Kids worried.
They've had a year.
Exactly.
Anti-Semitism.
The fear, and it's not just kids. Everybody's been subjected to pretty much an unleavened diet of fear for 4 years. And you know, I was talking to my middle one last night, and we were driving back through London at whatever 6 o'clock, and she just had questions. Clearly, will there be riots near us, Mum? And I want to go to the cinema tomorrow night. Do you think I should go to the cinema tomorrow night? And you realise for these children, this is still bubbling under this fear of, are they safe? And it's not right. And we're going to talk to a psychologist about how you handle that with kids.
I don't know how I ever got through life and what I have witnessed in my life, which as a 10-year-old or an 8-year-old, you then deem as normal and you adapt to it. So burning buses, burning cars, riots, bricks, police, riot shields, everything, all these things, and you walk around it. So I don't know.
But if you see it hear a loud bang, there's a part of you that does think someone's just been shot. And that will always be with you, I think.
I think also the difference is you were in those environments and you knew that you went to bed at night and you slept safely. Kids now have got very emotive, persuasive images of what might happen, but it doesn't happen around them.
Well, hold that thought.
Well, believe me, my day would have happened to you. Guys, thank you very much indeed. Tune in to Andrew and Bev. They're up next. Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. It's a day of sunshine and showers. Some places won't see too many showers. Others, particularly Western Scotland, we'll see lots of them. That's where the low pressure is. You can see the swirl here. Very wet day, basically, across the Highlands. The closer you are to the low, the more showers you'll see. So they'll be on and off through the day for Northern Ireland, northwest England. Further south, the showers a bit more scattered, so longer, drier spells, particularly this afternoon over the Midlands and Wales. Some decent spells of sunshine here. Not many showers at all across southern and eastern England. Generally a dry day and a fresher feel as well. Could still get to 22, 23 further north. Temperatures most